Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the April 17th, 2018 Board of Selectmen's meeting. I'll read the agenda. 7 o'clock, we'll have citizens input. 7:05, proclamation, Paul Mullins, town citation of Paul Mullins for years of service on town boards and committees. 7:15, a public hearing, NPS LLC Craft Group Monster Energy Supercross. 7:25, appointment of Helen Olson to Council on Aging HS Advisory Board. 7:35, Foxborough Cleanup Day. 7:45, John Mitchellmore, Foxborough Housing Authority, Walnut Street Project. 8:05, Foxborough Recreation, approval of farmers market on the common and purchase placement of 2 picnic tables on the common. 8:15, Ann Malley, National Grid representative, will be here to do a presentation. 8:40, approval of the DPW contract. 8:45, Board of Selectmen sign warrant items. 9 o'clock, Selectmen's update. 9:05, Town Manager's update. 9:10, Assistant Town Manager's update. We have a bunch of action items, and approximately 9:20, we go to executive session to conduct strategy sessions in preparation for negotiations for contract renewal with Mass Cop Police Union, and Board of Selectmen approve
That's been postponed.
Okay. We'll go to executive session to approve executive session minutes from 3/6/2018 and 3/20/2018. I guess I'll lead in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, a little bit after 7 o'clock. Is anybody here for citizens input? I'll take Tina and then go to Dick. Either one.
Podium seems very small. So at the last Board of Selectmen meeting, I listened very thoughtfully to your discussion with, I'm sorry, I should introduce myself. Tina Dollinger, 4 Milton Lane, Vice Chair of the School Committee. Just to back up, last school committee meeting, you all had a very thoughtful, deliberate discussion about the proposal for the track and the bleachers at the high school athletic complex. I listened to your discussion, particularly about fundraisers, and got thinking about what we could do to get a fundraiser going that would complement the current athletic complex. And I spoke with the superintendent, I spoke with Bill Yukna, and what we're going to try to do, or what we're going to do, I'm going to spearhead a brick and paver, engraved brick and paver fundraiser in connection with the building and landscaping of the concession stand, which is going in because that funding was already approved previously at the CIP last year. And when they put it in over the summer, in the fall, hopefully we can get a nice patio, a nice brick pathway, and we will hopefully raise some funds for the beautification of that area of the athletic complex. So I don't really have a forecast of how much money this might raise. We're just in the beginning stages. I talked to Mike Lancaster, who is doing the brick fundraising for the Knights of Columbus for their garden over there, and he gave me a contact at Brick Markers USA. So hopefully within the next couple weeks, I don't have really much else going on in my life, so I'm going to try to get an order form going. I will contact all of the booster clubs, the Foxborough Alumni Association, and see, if we can pretty much get everyone who's graduated from Foxborough High School or who will have a graduate from Foxborough High School to buy a brick and support this fundraiser. Just wanted to let you know that this was going forward so that you have that information when you make your decisions later on this evening. Okay. And I apologize because I didn't connect with the chair until after the agenda had been finalized for tonight, so it was a delay on my part that why I'm presenting it at Citizens Input. I know you can't ask me any questions, but you certainly know where to find me if you have any. And thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Tina. Dick?
Good evening. I'm Dick Heidecker. As I mentioned to Bill earlier, I was thinking of bringing my son up, but he's also Dick Heidecker, and I'm sure the town would not appreciate 2 of us. But anyway, I gave you a handout on the schools that I feel is important at this time. I was very happy to hear about the possible fundraiser, given what is ahead of us on the school side, and I'm talking buildings and big expense tickets. Bill Yukna, his last letter to the editor and meeting indicated in November that he would have a monthly article exposing what is going on with MSBA and the program and where we are. The handout I passed out to the board is longer than I'm going to spend up here. I'll cut it back because much of it you'll have seen or heard already in the mailing I sent to you a week ago. The problem is really very simple. The only thing that's been exposed is $35 million for the Borough School renovation and addition. There were problems in much of the material that has been passed through the building committee. Bill Yukna and I and the superintendent and others have gone through the materials. But the problem has been much as the second paragraph mentioned. When I brought up the issue of the Taylor and Igo, I was told flat out by the superintendent and other people on the board that this isn't germane at the present time. We're only talking borough. We're talking the elementary system. If you're going to do something to 1/3 of the system, we should be on board knowing when and how the other two schools, if it's limited to two, are going to be improved or changed in a similar fashion. There has been nothing said. They won't even approach the question. It's in their minutes that they've answered the question, but it hasn't been answered. What we are talking about is the Mass School Building Authority is a big government agency. They meet every other month. They have 12, 15 members. They get together. They hold all these meetings and disappear for 2 months. The problem that we have is, if you ever try and go to the web and get a hold of MSBA, if your password has not been approved by MSBA, you will never get through to them. I've sent memos to them, I've sent emails to them asking questions, no answers. It's a typical government agency, well-staffed, to protect themselves apparently from anyone that might question something. But they came up with a number of 270 kids as a maximum number of capacity for the borough school. 270. Burl and Taylor are the same size, so Taylor will probably have 270. That's 540. Igo has about 300 odd at the present time. I've got the numbers somewhere. But the point is, with the 3 schools involved, we're talking about maximum capacities in the 810 to 840 range. When the school is finally open, they will have 949 K4 students in the system. And 2 years later, we will be 1,085. There's been no discussion, no thought about how to deal with this shortfall. Are we going to build a new elementary? Are we going to put a second story on Taylor? Are we going to add 10 rooms to the 3 elementaries each after even completing the borough work? We're limited, and this limitation of 270 had to be signed by 3 local officials. I think 2 of them are here today. The town manager, the school committee person, and the superintendent. We have agreed to 270 as the maximum at Borough. It was built for 530. Taylor was built for 530. We used to have 1,500 max. I know we've cut back to 20 students and now 18, and other things are going on. But these were 20-room schoolhouses that are now going to be used as schoolhouses for 15 rooms. They've occupied other spaces for other programs and other things within the building. The point is, in essence, if we're going to need another elementary school to avoid this overcrowding, and what the architect's report, the PDP submitted to the Mass School Building Authority indicated There's no space to move the kids out of borough to cut the building construction from 26 months down to 14. If we cut it from 26 to 14, escalation is cut in half, and we're saving $1.3 million as a bare minimum. Construction is noted in the different reports. Groundbreaking 2018. Later on, groundbreaking 2019. If you read the reporter last week on the architect, groundbreaking is 2020. You know, where are we headed with all of this stuff? I've never experienced this in my practice. I don't know where we're heading with this, and it concerns all of us. Let me give you just the quick numbers. The school department supplied numbers to the state, which were projections and reports on what's going on in town. They reported birth numbers, annual birth numbers, over 500 once, and over 400 4 times. When I mentioned this to Bob Cutler, he almost fainted. The highest birth numbers we have had are 313 once. Never a 300 number since or before. This is only part of the problem with the materials that have been transported back and forth. I've enclosed in the material, I gave the Selectmen page 2, which is the actual projection that they see for the student body. It reports for 2,490 students total in the system. If you listen to the superintendent after the October 1st filing with the state, we have 2,626 students. Which is it? Who have we left out? Well, we left out METCO, we left out the pre-kindergarten, we've left out a bunch of other numbers. But there was never any clarity published on the material sent in there or passed out to me of what these numbers were, where they were obtained, or where we're heading. You will see in those numbers we're in trouble at the elementary level only. And we have 400 odd empty seats at the middle and high school. If you have a problem and you need to move the borough students out to save money on escalation, we got 400 seats we can move them to for 1 year. You know, let's think about this stuff of what we are doing or what we're spending time cutting through on. Lastly, very simply, the thing that we need to get at is basically what we are approaching. And I feel from your position as the selectman and the general administrative oversight group in town, that you may need to question where we're heading of more groups than just your group, school committee, the planning, the downtown people, the Route 1 people. We're building apartments, we're building housing all over town, and no one is questioning or has questioned the builders and developers in terms of what they feel will be the child development within those areas. When we were doing the hospital back around the turn of the century, we pushed Kevin to get the builder to certify what kinds of numbers he would find. This was done the last week before that sale and bidding and everything took place. They predicted 100 to 125. The numbers as of this date, and we have stayed on top of it now, ever since the hospital work started. We have had 127 as a high point. But add to that Ford's Boulevard, there's another 29. Add to that Fisher Street. 3 weeks after the October 1st deadline for submission for the state, there were already 24 out of Fisher Street. We have no numbers on any other developments, primarily because the other developments are much smaller. But what do we read in the paper? We read about the railroad area, the old Grossman place. We read about the senior thing on Walnut Street, but that isn't going to have kids, presumably. But the point is, we don't have a handle. Planning board, the downtown people, the Route 1 people, no one seems to be pointing a finger at the 2-bedroom, 3-bedroom kind of complexes which are not built to be childless. We need some currency on all of this stuff and some means to understand what's going on. The sewer and water, we have to run sewer lines just because we paid for the plant in Norton and the starting of the pipeline up the street here to the old fire station. We have other sewer lines we're going to have to build all over town to service both the downtown and other areas. But let me give you, as a summary, a quick list of what is ahead of us. The current project is listed at $35 million. Taylor, because it won't need the pre-K, is about $32 million. These are today's dollars. I go with its gym, could be about $28 million. You add up these three, we're already 30, 60, 80, 90. We're almost $100 million in three of them. But we have a shortfall of 270 students at the elementary level by 2025. That's another $35 million plus land costs that we're building new. Add to this the Ahern and the high school. Ahern was done in the 90s, in the early century part of this age. The high school was done in the 2010s period. So we're looking at these projects which will need the renovation overturned, which has not included the structural work, which the new building code as of January 1st has taken over. Jim, you may know what's involved, the seismic. How many earthquakes have we had in the east that have been magnitude 7? I don't think we've had one from the 1600s down. But the point is, it's a reflection on what is needed, and the cost is horrible. The difference between the high school of 200,000 square feet being bid at $10 million and the borough at 40,000 square feet, having the renovation and earthquake and all this other stuff bid at roughly $14 million, $15 million. It's a big chunk that we're going to have to face, and we haven't faced it yet. Whether the high school and the Ahern come in under 200 million will be a surprise, because they are now 400,000 square feet. So this is part of the problem that we're facing. It isn't that long term that we can say, oh, I'll be gone by that time, my kids will be gone by that time. They won't. The high school and the Ahern will be in front of us within 20 or 30 years. There's no question on this. In addition, in 20 years, we will have to replace the roof, the boilers, the windows, and many other elements within those two buildings. So we're looking at something which is big ticket. I haven't heard a single iota of information on this big ticket from anyone. Your board, school board, building committee, you name it. The facts are out there. They will have to be taken care of, and it's short term on the elementaries at least. We shouldn't have to spend 10 years to put an elementary renovation and addition project out to bid and occupy. This is serious. And my opinion is, you need to push it. You're the people that can do it. Other committees have their little areas of concern. But I think this is proper, it's big, it's nasty, and it's expensive. And somehow, it needs to be out in front of the voter. I was tempted to say, when we get to town meeting, I hate to say this on the stadium thing and the bleachers and stuff, what should we be concerned with, bleachers or the repairs to Taylor, out 12 years ahead of us rather than 2 years ahead of us? These are the kinds of things we're looking at. I can recall in the late 90s, I came to town meeting and moved that we deduct $600,000 from their budget for the renovation work at the Ahern. The noise in that auditorium was fantastic. Everyone was yelling and screaming. But Selectmen, I think, took the school committee back down, and everyone said, yes, it's important, but let's pass this budget. We will move on the Ahern School, and we did. And we got the damn thing done, and the others beyond that. With that, I thank you.
Thank you, Dick. Anybody else for citizens' input? No? We'll move to 7:05, proclamation, Paul Mullins. Come on up here, young fella.
What can I do for you?
Have a seat.
Uh-oh. This could be bad.
So, we have an official citation, which I'll read into the record.
Handcuffs too? Uh-oh.
No, they're not here.
Not that citation.
Not that citation. Official citation, Foxborough Board of Selectmen. The Board of Selectmen, on the occasion of retirement, commends Paul Mullins for his 21 years of service to the town of Foxborough Board of Health. Recognition is given to Paul Mullins for your outstanding service to the town of Foxborough as a member of the Board of Health, where you served for 21 years and held the position of chairman at least 7 times. In addition to your service on the Board of Health, you volunteered on the Neponset Reservoir Committee for 19 years and was part of the Foxborough Emergency Management Team. You have helped with various clinics throughout all of these years and helped to promulgate the following regulations and amendments. Body art regulations, 2001. Requirements for toilet facilities, 2004. Tanning amendments, 2013. Additional Title V policies, 2014. Additional swimming pool regulations, 2009 and 2015. Animal and fowl regulations, 2010. Tobacco 2, 2014. You have always served on each board and committee with the same intensity, passion, concern for the citizens and environment, and his interest in doing the best job possible. The Board of Selectmen and the town staff would like to thank you for your many contributions, dedications, and commitment to the town of Foxborough. Our best wishes go with you as you begin the next chapter in your life. This citation is given under the seal of the town of Foxborough on the 17th day of April 2018. Signed, the Board of Selectmen, David S. Feldman, Chairman, Christopher P. Mitchell, Vice Chair, Mark Elfman, Clerk, Virginia Coppola, James DeVellis. Congratulations, sir. Good luck in your retirement.
Thank you.
Thank you, Paul. Should be very proud.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
You're welcome to say a few words if you care to.
We want to hear about the fowl regulations,
The fowl regulations.
the turkey regulations.
As when I came in, I looked, is there any chickens? Is there any raw milk? It's been a pleasure serving the town. A lot of you don't know it, but I had moved back into town, I think it was somewhere around 94, and I became ill in 95, and afterwards I was healthy enough to decide that I needed to get back to the town in serving the Board of Health. I felt it was a good place for me, and being a plumber and being a drinking water operator, I felt that I could do best for the town. And it's been very interesting. I've met a lot of, I'll say, characters in my time. Foxborough is a very, very diverse town. I enjoy living here. Unfortunately, I am moving from town. I have moved from town. So I will miss it. It is a big part of my life. And I thank the town for being what I will always call my hometown. Thank you.
Thank you.
Paul.
Okay, 25 past 7. We'll do the 7:15 public hearing. NPS LLC Craft Group, Monster Energy Supercross.
The Board of Selectmen, acting as the local licensing authority pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 140, Section 181, and Section 183A, Chapter 136, Section 4, Town of Foxborough General Bylaws, Chapter 229, and also Stadium Rules and Regulations, will conduct a public hearing on Tuesday, April 17th, 2018, beginning at 7:15 p.m. in the Gala Meeting Room, Town Hall, 40 South Street, to review the application submitted by NPS LLC for the Monster Energy AMA Supercross 2018 and promoter Feld Motorsports, Inc. event is proposed for Gillette Stadium to be held on Saturday, April 21st, 2018. Application for this event is on file at the Office of Selectmen. All interested parties are welcome to attend.
Welcome.
Thank you. Jesse Ennis with Gillette Stadium. Here before you this evening to walk through Saturday's 2018 Monster Energy AMA Supercross. It's presented by Feld Entertainment, which probably sounds familiar. This will be our 7th Feld Entertainment event that we hosted. This is the same company that we produced this event with in 2016, and this is the same company that we work with for the Monster Jam events, which are the trucks. This specific event is the two-wheel bike races. So requesting the 21st. This event start time and the profile actually is exactly the same as 16 with a couple of shifts in timeline, but the overall operation of the event is the same. The gates will open at 8. The first gate that'll open will be the Patriot Place gate, which is the one that's located between the ticket office and the pro shop. And the reason for that is there's qualifying rounds that run right from 9 o'clock to about 1:15. Those are, the way that this event functions is those are warm-ups, qualifying heats, and then the main event begins at 2:30 and ends around 7. So from 8 o'clock right up until noon, we only open the 100 level east side of the stadium, and then at noon we'll open the balance of our gates, and we'll open up the rest of the stadium. It's a crowd control measure that we use, and we found that when we hosted the event in 16, it worked really well. From a sales perspective, I know that on the application it says 40,000, but we don't anticipate any more than 30 for this event. Sales are a little bit below what they were in 16, and in 2016 we scanned about 32,000 people into the building. So from a planning perspective and what we've communicated to public safety is the lower bowl of the stadium, the entire 100 level, will be in use. A small collection of suites, the East and the West clubs, and the East and the West 200 level, but there'll be no 300 level open at all for this event. The other unique thing about this event, which you really don't see in any of our concerts or even with Monster Jam, is that the East Club of the stadium, lots 5 and 6, function as an extension of the stadium footprint. So the part of this event is interactive. So as the riders race, they complete their races, and then they go back to essentially their pit areas, which they function much like a slower version of a NASCAR pit area. So after they have a warm-up or a qualifying run, they'll come back to their space in lot 5 or 6, work on their bikes, do whatever they need to do to prepare for their next heat. And so by creating that extension of the stadium perimeter, it allows our fans to scan into the building using all of the standard safety procedures. So they'll scan into the building, they'll be wanded, they'll go through the mags, they have the clear bag policy in place, walk into the building after going through all of those safety procedures, and then go out one of our controlled gates and be able to pass back and forth from the pit and back into the building throughout the course of the day. So it allows the fans that access to their rider that they might have been following throughout this entire series, but also be able to come into the stadium and watch what's actually happening on the dirt. So the main event begins at 2:30, should end by 7 o'clock. There's a really wide range of ticket prices, which is why you see there's over a dozen listed on this application, and there's even more than that are currently available. This event used a dynamic pricing model, so much like an airplane ticket. Based on the amount of people searching for the event and how ticket sales were going, they were constantly adjusting the price to meet the demand in the market. The pit area, we will be selling food and beverage, but there's absolutely no alcohol. So in that paddock space, it's strictly a fan interaction space, but it's a working area as well. So there's no alcohol sales whatsoever. In that space, there's no alcohol that's allowed to be carried into that space. It's strictly stadium fare, food and beverage, and a lot of Monster Energy sampling, as you can imagine, as they are the title sponsor of the event. So I think I've kind of covered most of the event logistics. Is there anything that I might have missed, Randy?
Nothing. Thorough as always, yes. So Randy Briggs, Stadium Advisory Committee, we voted unanimously to approve, or make a recommendation to approve the event and the application that was delivered. Yep.
Okay. Questions from the board?
When it was held in 2016, that was the first time this event was there, right?
Correct. It was the first time that we hosted the Supercross event at the stadium, yeah.
Any issues from that? Any things you learned to do different or Everything go well?
Everything went really well. We definitely made some adjustments to our staffing and the way we plan on operating on Saturday based on what happened last time. Nothing bad, just little things like noticing that more people were coming from the south than we had anticipated from the north. So making sure that we've got that U-bid gate open and available for fans so that they're not walking all the way into the north to scan into the building. So there's a couple little things like tweaks like that we made, but there aren't any, we didn't have any significant issues in 2016, so that's good.
Just a brief question. On one of the special conditions, or one of the conditions, it says no tickets are to be sold the day of the event unless special permission from the police chief. Is that unusual, or why would that be in there? Is there something different about this event?
No,
So it might be just a standard condition?
I think so, yeah. Because there actually are some ticket sales.
Yeah, just, so no tickets are to be sold on the day of the event without prior approval of the chiefs of police, and no event shall be over 50,000. I get the 50,000, but I'm not sure why you would agree or we would impose a condition like that.
No, I don't know either. Honestly, I don't have an answer for that.
I think that's
Maybe a standard?
That's boilerplate language that I think is in there. Might just want to take a look at it.
Okay.
I just don't want, well, you don't want someone coming to the window and have it in an issue, where it's a permit requirement, that's all. That's it.
Any other question?
Nope.
Do you actually have people that show up at 8 o'clock and stay right through to the end, or is it more of a rolling crowd where people kind of come and go? They'll come for the time trials, they'll leave, and then they'll come back?
We see a decent amount of people that are we scanned about 1,000 people into the building in the first 30 minutes in 2016. So there's a small but notable group that are here to see their rider at the very beginning of the trial, want to get in the pit, want to make sure that they're in a good position for an autograph. But after that initial push of people into the venue, it's a really slow and steady flow.
Yeah.
We do allow, just from a safety perspective, we do allow people to pass out of the building, and then you'd have to pass back in again, going through the entire procedure. But a vast majority of the guests just pass between the stadium itself and then that paddock area, because everything you need is essentially contained within that footprint throughout the entire day.
Right. I mean, the base of the question was the traffic. How it comes in. If it's a slow build, then it should be non-impactful.
It's a really consistent flow throughout the course of the day. We didn't see any one crush at any time.
Okay. Any other questions? No. Being this is a public hearing, anybody in the audience have any questions or comments? Seeing none.
Move to close the public hearing.
Second?
Motion made, second. Any further discussion? Seeing none. All those in favor?
Move to approve the license for NPS LLC Monster Energy Supercross event at Gillette Stadium on 4/21/18.
Second?
Motion made, second. Any further discussion? Seeing none. All those in favor? Aye. Good luck.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Randy, you racing?
No. No, not this year.
Jumper.
725, appointment of Helen Olson to Council of Aging, Human Services Advisory Board. Would you like to come up? Have a seat. How are you?
Hi.
Bear with me 1 second.
Old school.
Dear Board of Selectmen, the Foxborough Council on Aging and Human Services Advisory Board, at their meeting on March 29, 2018, unanimously voted to recommend Helen Olson as our new board member. Bob Murphy recently submitted his resignation, and she will be filling his position. Sincerely yours, Wendy Haney, Secretary, Council on Aging. So you ready?
I'm ready.
You
I'm
ready?
honored.
You're honored?
I am.
You ready to do all the duties? Any questions from the board?
Oh, I think you'd be excellent, Helen.
Yeah, thanks for stepping up and volunteering.
It's an honor, really. I thank you.
Okay. Well, can I have a motion?
Move to approve the appointment of Helen Olson to the Council on Aging and Human Services Advisory Board for a term starting 4/26/2018 and expiring 5/1/2020.
Second.
Motion made, second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all is in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Good
Thank
luck.
you.
Good luck.
That was easy. Wish they were all that easy. 7:35, Foxborough Cleanup Day. Hello again.
Tina Bellinger, and AJ Dooley couldn't be here tonight, so I have with me Joseph Garrity, who's been helping us on the Cleanup Foxborough Day Committee. Since AJ and I were here in February, you asked us to come back with an update, so we've been working, we've been very busy. We have secured approval for the use of the Schneider Grove, and we thank Schneider Electric for, once again, letting us use their grove on Bird Street and Railroad Ave as our, sort of central base for registration, for the cookout, for sign-ups, and where people can come back and get another assignment and go out again. So it's very wonderful of Schneider to do that. And I should add that they always also send a group of employees out the Friday before. So cleanup day, again, is Saturday, April 28th, from 8 a.m. to noon, and we will start at the Schneider Grove. And Schneider always sends a great group of employees out the day before during their workday as part of their volunteerism at Schneider. They clean up the entire Railroad Ave, Bird Ave area. So they always also participate. It's great. It's wonderful. The craft group has donated 4 tickets in suite for the July 26th Taylor Swift concert. So one lucky volunteer, when our volunteers get there, they fill out their, sheets with their name and phone number, and we draw a prize for a lucky volunteer. Will get tickets and a VIP parking pass to the Taylor Swift concert. We also have 2 tickets to a Patriots game that were donated and 2 tickets to a Red Sox game. So we'll have 3 winners, so there's good karma involved with volunteering to clean up Foxborough. Jake and Joe's is once again going to donate all the food for the cookout. We appreciate that. The great guys at the Foxborough Fish and Game are going to cook all the food, as they always do. Foxborough Never Forgets, St. Mary's Church, the Knights of Columbus, and the Foxborough Senior All-Night Graduation Party have donated towards the cost of the T-shirts. The Foxborough Fire Department will provide a grill, their big grill, to cook the food, so we appreciate that very much. Oilman Inc. always donates the ice to keep all the food and beverages. We have Dunkin' Donuts on Main Street donates coffee and donuts for the start of the day, so we get everybody well caffeinated and sugared up before they head out. Stop and Shop in Foxborough donates bottled water and other beverages. United Site Services will donate porta potties. We get Differentials donates tables, chairs, and a tent. Supreme Industrial Products will donate trash bags and gloves, and of course, Dooley Disposal. AJ's not here, and he's such a humble guy, but AJ's company, Dooley Disposal, always donates this to the safety T-shirts, all their labor, their trucks. They pick up tons of trash that our volunteers bag up throughout the town, and I think certainly as the big piles of snow have melted, we've seen the huge need there is for this day, and it all goes back to Jack Lathalette, who had the original idea, and AJ, who stepped up 6 years ago. This is our 6th annual day to bring this all together. So the signups have been great. If anyone wants to sign up, go to www.cleanupfoxborough, just FOXBORO.org on the web, or you can call me at home. It's 508-543-7487. I can't help you with a dumpster or anything to do with your trash pickup, but I can help you with cleanup day questions. Yeah, and so it is helpful if people can sign up in advance, because we're trying to estimate how much food we need, what sizes we need to order for T-shirts. So we usually get a huge uptick the
week before. So we have probably, I'd say, about 200 volunteers already. You know, Girl Scouts, Boy Scouts, the Knights of Columbus, the Masonic Lodge, all kinds of families, generations clean up together. I have grandparents and grandchildren cleaning up. I have just all kinds of volunteers. So friends who do the same neighborhood together, and it's all coming together. Is there anything else you need to know?
Yeah. We had talked about appointing Mr. Garrity here, the student liaison to the
Yes.
cleanup committee. We never formally voted on that. So should we formally take a vote to officially appoint Joe?
Joe has been a big help. He helped us. We did send flyers home in the school backpacks at all 5 schools, and Joe has helped
I did that for the high
organize.
school, level, for report cards last week before vacation.
It's a big help.
Good?
So, and Joe's a great ambassador out in the community to get people to
Yes, he is.
volunteer.
Yes, he is.
So, yes, we would really love him to be an official member of our committee if the board would
We have
please.
a
vote.
motion,
Yeah,
please?
so move to approve Joe Garrity as the student representative to the Cleanup Foxborough Committee.
Second.
Motion made, second. Any further discussion?
Just a point of order for a term of
Our terms are generally 1 year.
1 year? Is it 1 year? Okay, for a term of 1 year.
For a term of 1 year.
Motion made, seconded, amended. All those in favor?
Right.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
There you go, Joe.
Congratulations, Joe. Great.
Anything
So-
else?
Good work.
I think that's it.
Well, I'm sure we'll see all of you on Cleanup Foxborough Day.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Thanks, Tina.
Thanks, Tina. Good job, Joe.
Thank you.
Okay. A little bit ahead of schedule by 2 minutes. John Mickelmore, Foxborough Housing Authority, Walnut Street Project.
Evening.
Hey, John.
Record, my name is John Mitchellmore. I'm the chairman of the Foxborough Housing Authority. I have Charlene Kay with me, who is the vice chairman of the authority also. Basically, what we're here to do is to go, we went over in the fall, when we made our presentation before. I think the issue was that there was some confusion about the process. And I think we've clarified the process, and Bill, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but the process in the bylaw is that the Affordable Housing Trust gets a presentation, they take a vote as to how much is to be distributed. The selectmen, kind of in a belt and suspenders process, has the same hearing and either confirms a vote or changes it to something. So it's essentially a 2-step process. There's no requirement to go to the town meeting, which I think is what was in the back of people's minds the last time. So I think the idea is that we would, unless you have a different idea, Mr. Chairman, I think what I would like to do is just make it just a quick summary of the facts, again, so that you have a record upon which you can take a vote. Okay?
Sure.
I think just as a matter of clarity, the only new thing that that has transpired since last fall was that you did receive the report from Serped, which identified the Walnut Street 140 intersection as an intersection which was in need of a traffic signal or traffic control. I think that was a question that was unanswered the last time, but I think that has been answered. The Foxborough Housing Authority has been deeded a parcel of land containing 15.564 acres. The land is bordered by Walnut Street, Route 140, the southbound ramp of Route 95, and the single-family homes on the easterly side of North High Street. Because the town has exceeded its 10% of affordable housing units required by Chapter 40B, the Department of Housing and Community Development is permitting us to build elderly housing units rather than family housing units. So that's what we would like to do. We have a significant waiting list, and we also know that our surrounding towns are in the same kind of fix that we're in. There's a real demand for for affordable elderly housing, and we think we can meet that. So that's what we want to do. Unfortunately, the Housing Authority cannot be the developer of the project as we have been in the past, because the only funding vehicle availability is tax credits, which is a kind of a complex investment thing. But housing authorities, because we're a public agency, are not eligible for tax credit investments. So it would have to be either a nonprofit or for-profit developer that would develop the property. Our consultant, who was here the last time, has had a wide range of experience in projects of this nature, and what their advice is that the more, essentially, the skin we can get in the game, the more we can provide in a request for proposal, the better off we're going to be. We're going to be able to attract better developers, and we're going to have much more control over the process in terms of design, the selection process, and all sorts of things. So again, their recommendation is the more money that we can invest in it in advance of the request for proposal, the better off we're going to be. I think, as was suggested the last time, and we have confirmed with them, that we would include within our request for proposal a condition that any developer would work in conjunction with Mass DOT to install the traffic control signal. I think that's a sensible thing to do. Again, the developer would be getting this land for nothing, so that would certainly be almost a wash in terms of the development cost. The Affordable Housing Authority, Housing Trust, the board, voted to distribute $50,000 from their fund. Those funds would be used for preliminary engineering work, which would include a topographical survey, percolation tests. It would also allow our consultant to do some initial work and design and research some funding sources. As we told when we had our meeting with the Housing Trust, this may not be our last request for funds. I think that the initial budget that our consultant came up was in excess of $150,000 and $175,000. But I think that the Affordable Housing Trust wanted to do it somewhat piecemeal, which is fine with us. We would do it, and if something goes wrong, we can jump off the train. But if something goes as we think it's going to go, I think we would probably be coming back for additional funds for doing different things. And as you probably know, that because this land is in the R40 zone, this would have to go under the 40B process. So the Zoning Board of Appeals would be the ones that would be making the final decision on all of the conditions and the permits of those. So therefore, we'd like to ask the Board of Selectmen to confirm the awarding of the $50,000 that was voted by the Affordable Housing Trust Board. Any questions?
Questions from the board?
No.
John, I just had a couple questions.
Sure.
I commend you for the work on the Housing Authority. It's certainly needed, and it's a long time coming, so thank you for that. Questions more for, well, one thing you mentioned, that was a condition that the developer works with Mass Highway or the DOT to do the light. I've worked on projects where it's a condition that the developer work with them, but it's not a condition that the developer does it.
I think we'd have to fine tune that language. I'm just saying that we.
Because a lot of times the developer says, well, we tried, but Mass Highway doesn't want to do it,
Right,
or it's
I mean,
20 years out.
I think, again, the safety net on that is that the Board of Appeals in their decision on the 40B could require it. They could require that to not be, unless the signal being.
They may or they may not, I don't know, but a lot of times when money's spent and you get up to the finish line,
Right.
and then if you don't do it, then it's all wasted money, so you end up making decisions based on that. So I would feel more comfortable with a condition that there was a condition that the light be installed, not that it be studied later.
Okay, well, yeah, we can.
That's just my thought.
Yeah, but I think we can make it clear that, and the Mass Highway has to approve it, approve the design and all that sort of stuff, but I think that, we can make sure that the developer would know that it's going to be a requirement to spend that money.
Okay. And then the other question is honestly not really geared towards the housing authority, but the housing trust. Now, we set up this back in almost 3 years ago, and one of the requirements is the housing trust meet regularly, they submit reports. I've looked everywhere on who's on the authority, where the reports are. I don't know if it's 50,000 in there or 5 million in there. The accountability for, and again, this is not the housing authority.
I think there's 376,000.
I don't know, but it would be nice to see their decision process, if they talked about Phase 2, how much is in there, where the reports are, and the accountability of it. And I went all through the website. The only thing I could find was when Paige presented this a year ago to the planning board, and it was one sentence. She presented it, and they approved it, and there was no information. So does anybody know who's on the board and how much money and what their goals and objectives are?
We did have board, I remember seeing minutes.
We had a formal meeting with them, I think in January. And, they went through the process, they elected a chairman. So it's Dennis Naughton, Gordon Green, Tom Kelly, Scott Martiniak, one other, I think there were five. Who?
Yeah.
Me.
You, right.
So could we make a request that whoever's on this to put some meeting minutes and give a report to the town? Only because it's been 3 years, and unless somebody else knows something, there's nothing, it's a blank slate right now.
Perfect sense, right.
Yeah, I know we've been wanting to get this thing going and start spending funds specifically for senior housing. So this is a good thing. You're obviously going to have to come back, because $50,000 is not enough for seed money to get the process going, but it's a start. I would like you to come back if you do go to the next step, and the next step would probably require the RFP. We'd like to see the requirement for the payment of the traffic signal, not just to work with the Mass DOT, because Mass DOT is problematic to work with. But if they know the developer has skin in the game and they're going to fund it, it'll be a lot.
Right.
It'll cut down a lot of the time.
I've had a conversation with Jay Barrows about that, and I think he's experienced with how that works, and so I think we can maybe, get some language from other, because this has certainly happened along that corridor enough times, and so I think we can somehow grab the language that.
Well, let alone the corridor. I mean, that area is probably the worst, one of the worst, if not the worst.
Right.
So getting that traffic signal there is paramount.
I mean, I think none of us want that on our conscience, having, 90 bedrooms of elderly housing, trying to use that intersection as it is. That's certainly nothing I'd ever want to see. I don't like to use it myself, and I've lived here all my life.
John, I noticed there's no trespassing signs along Walnut Street and that.
Yes,
Who put those up?
we did.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Yeah, we had some concerns about people going in there. And there had been some, when the state owned it, there had been people going in and I think harvesting wood and that sort of stuff. So now that we own it, we want to make sure that
So we have.
no one goes in and plants salamanders.
So we have,
You laugh.
John, so the land has already been given to the town of
Yes.
Foxborough?
Not the town of, the housing authority, yes.
Did we have to accept it?
No, because we're a separate
Oh, okay.
entity completely.
In the bylaw, they can accept.
Yeah.
that.
So with the 50,000, do some preliminary stuff. What if the land doesn't work out for what you guys want to do? What happens then with that piece of land?
Well, we're required to, under the provisions of our deed, we would be required to deed it back to the state. We have to develop it with certain, we have a window and we have some guidelines. We're well within our time frame. But if it turns out that we can't do that, we would have to deed it back to them. There's a right of reversion for that. I think we can, with 15 and a half acres, and only 90 bedrooms, I can't imagine we can't figure out something, but
You mentioned timeline. What's your long-range timeline from initial surveys, RFP, pre-development, full construction?
about a year from when we start to get to be ready to get to the ZBA. I think that's about,
Any other questions on the board? Make a motion?
Yep, move to approve the use of $50,000 of Affordable Housing Trust Authority funds to begin the due diligence work for the Walnut Street development.
Second.
Motion made, second. Any further discussion?
Just, if I, again, make an amendment, and prior to issuance of the transfer of the 50,000, that the records be completed with meeting minutes and a budget of what is in the housing trust right now.
Accounting, right? An accounting of what's in there.
An accounting, yeah, but proper meeting minutes of the meetings that they've had up to date. Sorry.
You yelled at me.
I did yell at you. It's my daughter.
Okay, motion's been made, seconded
With amendment.
with amendment. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
thank you very much.
Thanks, John.
Thanks, John.
Okay. A little bit ahead of schedule. Want to do a couple action items?
We can go down there. Hold on a second. Move to accept a gift donation in the amount of $1,000 to Veteran Services from the Bay Colony Group for the Iraq and Afghanistan War Memorial.
Second.
Motion made, second. Any further discussion?
Just a quick update. Still need about $5,000 if anybody out there is feeling generous. Not you, Dave, not yet. I'm down to the wire, I'll hit you up. Okay.
Fair enough. Motion made, second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye. Move to accept a gift donation in the amount of $250 to the Rec Department from the Moms Club of Foxborough for the purchase of supplies for the May 20th, 2018 event.
Second.
Motion made, second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye. Move to accept a gift donation in the amount of $1,000 to the Conservation Department from the Plain Ridge Casino for environmental programs and maintenance at the Lane Homestead Conservation Property.
Second.
Motion made, second. Any further discussion?
Just out of clarity, I mean, $1,000 is nice, but anybody have any idea where this initiated from or why it's geared towards the lane, just out of curiosity?
Anybody here from Conservation?
It's just an odd pinpointed donation. Can we just table this till town manager comes back? Maybe he knows.
Sure.
We'll skip this one then. See where we are. Okay. Move to accept a gift donation of $250 to the library from the Foxborough J.C.'s to sponsor the Easton Children's Museum Pass.
Second.
Motion made, second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye. Move to accept a gift donation of a desk for the use at the reception area to the town hall from Anonymous.
I would like to second and thank Anonymous very much, because it looks really nice.
Okay.
Is it it's out there now?
Yeah. Walked right by it.
I was in a rush. Sorry.
Motion made, seconded. All those in favor?
Aye. Move to accept move to approve a license renewal for 2 coin-operated pool tables at the Foxborough VFW Post 2626 to expire 5/1/2019.
Second.
Motion made, second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all's in favor?
Right. Move to approve a license for two coin-operated pool tables for T&O Walker, Inc., Rally Point Inn and Pub, to expire on 5/1/2019.
Second.
Motion made, second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all's in favor?
Aye. Move to approve a license for non-coin-operated pool table for the Angus Corp., America's Best Value Inn, to expire 5/1/2019.
Second.
Motion made, second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all's in favor? Aye.
Aye. Move to approve the renewal of a license for one coin-operated pool table for Waxy O'Connor's to expire on 5/1/2019.
Second.
Motion made, second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all's in favor?
Aye. Move to approve the 144 Main Street LLC Highland Ridge Subdivision roadway name.
Second.
Motion made, second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all's in favor?
Aye. Move to approve the reappointment of members of town boards and committees for terms that expire 5/1/19, 5/1/20, and 5/1/21.
Second.
Motion made, second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all's in favor?
Aye. I'll split this up. Move to approve the 3/6/2018 Board of Selectmen minutes.
Second.
Motion made, second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all's in favor?
Aye. Move to approve the 3/2018 Board of Selectmen's minutes.
Second.
Motion made, second. Any further discussion?
Yeah, I just had some corrections on it. On, well, we talked about the dog case. Okay, it refers to, what reads into public record, Sue Thibodeau stated they were not. There's no explanation of what she was responding to, and I think that was the two previous reports of problems, but there was no official complaints were made, so you could keep that in, okay? And also, on number 9.03, there's this thing that says, C. Mitchell, how's the progress for getting full liquor license? That doesn't belong there at all. I don't know where that came from, so. Okay.
So, move to approve the 3/2018 Board of Selectmen minutes with changes.
Amendments. Second.
Yeah. Sorry, second, yeah. That was quick.
Any further discussion? Seeing none, all's in favor? Aye.
Do you want to go back to the one, or you
Yeah,
want to
let's
skip it for?
let's go back to the one we skipped. Now that Bill's back in the room.
Bill, we have a question on one of the action items.
Yeah, there was a question I had. There was a email that was,
14.03.
email that was sent over from Plainridge Park. Reuben Warren sent an email saying they had $1,000 they wanted to donate, and then it looked like it got turned to you to give it back to the lane. Looking back, so it was a $1,000 donation to the lane property for conservation. So I guess my question is, looking back at the agreement that we had when Plain Ridge opened and the negotiating that we went back and forth, is this part of that, and is this a checkbox from that?
This is something completely different. This is discretionary money that they have that can use for conservation purposes for each of the towns, surrounding towns.
Okay.
So this is a relatively new program they came up with this past year.
So we did not solicit it, and it wasn't tied to the contract
No, it wasn't
to their,
solicited by anyone. They came to us and said, we have this funding, and we're offering it to all the towns around us.
okay.
So each town got the same amount?
I believe so. I can't say for certain, but I believe that was the amount.
And it was for conservation purposes?
It had to be for conservation purposes.
Thank you.
Motion's been made.
Seconded.
Discussion.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay. 8:05. Foxborough Recreation, approval of farmer's market on the common, purchase placement of 2 picnic tables on the common.
We have one of those, I think.
Oh, yeah. Well, his probably.
Hi, Debbie Giardino, Recreation Director. I'm before you to ask on behalf of the Board of Recreation that a farmer's market be held on the Common from June 7th to September 20th. We moved it to a Thursday night, the same night as the J.C.'s concerts. I've talked to the J.C.'s, and they're in agreement with our having the farmer's market on that night. We have 13 confirmed vendors, and that's our request. If you have any questions. Renee, my coworker Renee, Recreation Coordinator Renee Tachi, is the one that's solely responsible for the success of getting these vendors and getting this market set up. And she deserves all the recognition, and once it's up and running, she'll deserve all the praise as well. She's a farm finder.
That's my new title.
How does one go about becoming a farm finder?
You kind of just get thrown into it. It's
Lots
not
of
easy.
cold calls.
You've been volunteered.
Voluntold.
Exactly. It's been fun, though.
How's the response been?
Very good.
Are the farmers excited?
Yeah, for the most part, like a lot, people have either jumped right in and said, you know, we're definitely in, we want to do it. And others are like, oh, wait a minute, we were already going someone else Thursday, but you're closer, and you're like, would love to be on the, you know, the town common. So two actually figured a way to do both the two. A couple, you know, haven't been able to do it, but I reached out to about 180 different, not necessarily all produce vendors. We've got an alpaca farm, a honey farm, Foxborough cheese. So there's a whole bunch of different kinds, but everyone's been pretty excited about it.
I think they're great. I really do.
I'm excited.
Find some really fresh fruits, vegetables, get some unique stuff. Have you thought about the logistics of dropping off and setting up and moving traffic in and around the common?
Yeah, so we do have a time set for them to come, and then, so they can bring their cars up, or trucks or whatever, and then move them to the booth parking lot, or, you know, a larger parking lot before the market starts.
How are they gonna break down if the J.C. concert's going on? They're not gonna be able to drive back on the common.
They're not going to be driving on the Common at all. They're going to be moving their stuff from the park, from parking to the Common.
Okay. Now,
No, go ahead.
one more question. Is it up to like each of the vendor to deal with the Board of Health and whatever they need?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
When they can talk about the application
Not every vendor
package.
needed to put an application in. If it's a produce that they haven't basically touched, they haven't chopped the lettuce or cut a
Yeah.
cucumber, whatever, then it does not need a permit. But everyone else that does need a permit got the application, they've paid for it, and a couple of the permits have already come back. Diana and I have been working together on getting the people who do need it.
Are you guys going to be holding all those permits?
So Diana has it as well as I.
Okay.
She has just emailed me a copy that I printed off in my file.
Good.
And I think the vendors each got one as well.
Yeah, they should
Yeah.
have.
Is each vendor responsible for their disposal of trash?
Yes.
So you've got the concert on the north side. Are you going to be setting up the booths on the south side?
Yes, we are.
Okay. And they're going to be there the whole time that the concert's going?
No, it's 4 to 7.
Oh.
I'm sorry, 4 to 8.
Okay.
Concert start at 7.
And they start at 7, okay.
So there'll be a little overlap, but like I said, we had talked to a representative of the J.C.'s, and they didn't see a problem with it.
Okay.
Actually, it'll be a good lead-in.
Yeah.
To the concert.
Hopefully,
Yeah.
hopefully.
Yeah, no, I think it's a good idea. Okay.
Just one question. So on the individual applications, you talk about the responsibility for electricity. You can't drive in the commons. They're responsible for their own trash, but collectively, 4 to 8, rush hour traffic, picking up collectively the trash that was left by the individual ones in parking. I'm very happy for it, and we probably won't know until we actually do it once or twice, but police, DPW, collectively, the big picture with the concerts on the common. Has anyone talked to the police?
Logistically, we will finish that up after tonight's decision, and we will always have staff up there, whether it's one of us or another board member or someone from our friends group, we will always have staff up there.
Okay. And bathroom facilities?
We're required to supply them.
The porta potties?
Yes.
Are there? Okay, great. Thank you.
Any other questions? Doc?
Okay, I guess we have two motions. First one, motion to approve Foxborough Recreation's application to hold the farmers market on the Common for 16 Thursdays, starting June 7th, 2018 through September 20th, 2018, from 4 PM to 8 PM.
Second.
Motion made, second. Any further discussion?
Under discussion, do the J.C.'s usually have to apply for their Thursday nights for,
They do apply for a permit for the use of the common, yes.
have they applied for theirs yet?
I'm not 100% sure if they have at this point. I'll double check that.
Okay, just looking through all the paperwork and everything, and there's nothing from the J.C.'s endorsing this, so I just want to make 110% sure that they are, I trust you and I believe you, but without documentation, I just don't want any issues with the J.C.'s.
Are you going to wait for their application, or would you like me to get an endorsement from them?
I just want to make sure that we're not,
There's no mix-up there. That's fine.
yeah, so I mean.
We'll
is it-
confirm that.
Is it, so can we approve it pending
Yeah, that's,
something from the J.C.'s?
I think that's appropriate.
That good?
Yeah, we can condition it.
Confirming confirmation
Yeah,
that it's
yeah.
approved with the J.C.'s. We can take
Okay.
care of that.
So moved.
All those in favor?
Move to approve the purchase and placement of 2 picnic tables on the town common by the Foxborough Board of Recreation.
Second.
Under discussion, because I sort of rolled in, I didn't realize the second one. Will the picnic tables be removed in the wintertime and stored somewhere, or will they be up there permanently? Have you thought that far in advance yet, or?
It'll be up to Tree Park. They will probably just be left out because they're fairly substantial.
Oh,
And they're
okay.
going to be on handicapped, accessible, like
Pads.
pads. So they'll be secured in.
They'll be
So,
there,
yeah.
okay.
And they're commercial grade. They're meant to be outside, so they'll probably just leave them.
Okay, thanks.
Any further discussion?
Just on a clarification, we're not approving the purchase. You got donations,
Correct.
and you're funding this.
We're funding it
Our
just-
authority is for the approval to where to put
Just
them.
because it's on the common.
Okay.
That's right.
Any further discussion?
If this goes, if it goes good, I mean, do you think you would
Oh,
add
because
more?
it's a purchase.
More tables?
Tables?
I mean, is,
If people want them, I guess. I don't know how many you can put up there without making it look.
Yeah, they're,
Picnic.
again, they're
Yeah.
logistically being placed so that
Right.
Dave Laliberty picked out the spots for them with his dead grass, I believe. And DPW is going to be pouring the pads, so they're involved in making sure that the pads are handicapped accessible, so that requires a special placement. So we started with 2, and it may remain 2, but we'll see.
Interestingly, they went in front of the Historic Commission, and I think their question was, can you do more? They were very excited
Yeah.
about this, because there's a
Everybody's been very
need for it.
excited about it. They're costly too, because they're nice picnic tables to fit in with the common. They're not, like the wooden ones we have down at the booth. So we wanted them to last, and we wanted them to kind of match the railing. So they're not a cheap thing to just buy and throw up there.
Any further discussion?
Nope.
Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye. Great job.
Hey, thank you.
Thank you.
8:15, Ann Malley, National Grid Representative Presentation.
It's the board, the tripod is right there. Yep. It does connect. It does connect. Yeah, there you go.
He's a chiropractor.
Yeah, right.
It looks like a broken chiropractor.
My back feels like Doc.
I hope so.
There you go. So, Mr. Chairman, by way of introduction of this issue tonight, the board had requested that we get an update from National Grid in light of the fact that we've had a difficult season for storms and outages, and we weren't immune to, Foxborough obviously was not the only community that was, there was many communities that were impacted by the recent storms, and some have characterized that within 3 weeks we had almost 3 hurricanes that with the type of winds that we had, so caused obviously outages everywhere, including Foxborough. That in and of itself, this was an opportunity for National Grid to talk about some of the plans that they have, that they've been working on for quite some time now, and this is an update for the community to do this, to explain this, the update of that. I will say, just from my experience in working with National Grid, that they were extremely cooperative during the outages that we had. We had very good experience with them. They were very responsive to us. The outages that we incurred in Foxborough, I think the longest duration was just over 48 hours in any one situation. So, and that was during some of the more significant storms that were, there were many communities on the South Shore that were out for almost a week and a half in some cases. So I want to just say that I want to first of all thank National Grid for their cooperation and their help in getting us back up. But I think there still remains questions in the community that, you know, why does Foxborough go out often? So I've asked Ann to help explain that. A lot of it is tree related, and some of the tree situations that that occurred here in Foxborough was not different than any place else. Is that this wasn't just branches, whole trees actually fell down during many of these storms and caused some significant damage to property as well as the power grid. And things do happen throughout the year. Outages do occur. We just had one recently. That lasted a couple hours over this past weekend, and had nothing to do with nature other than the fact that a squirrel, I think, got fried at one of the substations, and actually resulted in a fuse popping as a result of that. So that caused a reaction and response from National Grid, which was we resolved it within 2.5 hours. So that's the sort of introduction that I have for this issue, and I think probably. I don't know if Chief want to add anything to that.
I think that, you know, we've had great success. Whoop, okay.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Chief Hatfield, Emergency Management Director. We've had great success with National Grid since 2010. 2010 was a big shakeup for us as a community. We had 2 major outages, and you know, we've built a strong relationship. We have a liaison that's always here every time that it even looks like there's going to be some power outages. Back then in 2010, the Union Loop was a big issue. I think that Ann will show you some of the impressive work that they've done on the Union Loop, and they've also enhanced the substations, especially on the Ponset Street and on Elm Street, that has also improved quite a bit of the infrastructure around Foxborough.
Okay, thank you, Chief. Right, what I'd like to do, I know you've probably all heard of the Union Loop. Since 2010, we promised to do considerable amount of capital improvement projects on the loop. And just so I can explain, is it okay if I go up here so I can point out? I'm sorry, you folks can't see the map here, but basically, we have a sub-transmission line. The sub-transmission line serves this area. It serves all of the towns from Franklin down to Norton.
Let's see if I can review this.
Move that podium back, Chief.
That's a minute. We'll go here. No, we're not going to break any bones. Oh, I broke that part though.
No, it's adjustable. Okay. There you go. Well, there you go.
Is it adjustable?
So we have a loop system, okay, for the sub-transmission. And it starts in South Rentham. So the feed comes into South Rentham, then it goes up north through Rentham and north up to Route 1. Then it goes south down to Plainville and over to Route 106 into Foxborough. So that's the route that the Union Loop takes. Then it also goes farther south, but you folks aren't interested in that. So I'm just going to go over the northern part of the Union Loop. So that's the that's 23,000 kV line is what supports all the substations in town. So if any of those lines have a fault on them, you lose whatever's upstream from that. Okay? A lot of these lines are on the public way. They run through Route 106, through 140, and then a lot of them run through the woods and along the railroad tracks as well. So we have some that we have quick access to and some not so quick access to. What we've done since 2010, we've spent over $20 million in upgrading the whole system. This started about 4 years ago. What we did first was fix the main feed going into South Rentham. So the line going in, we replaced all the poles and reconducted that. That was the first part. The second part was moving down to Plainville, because that's the route that it takes. It goes from South Rentham down to Plainville. So we reconducted and changed out all those poles. We did some improvements on the Plainville substation, brought that all up to speed. And then it can, and then from Plainville, it goes up Route 1 and cuts across Route 106. That's when we started our work in Foxborough. A lot of you folks, if you live on Route 106, you would have got notification in the mail if you were a butter. We were explained we had to trim everything on Route 106 first. We replaced all the poles on 106, and we put all new conductors for the sub-transmission line. So all that was done and completed last year. And then then it feeds into Mansfield. We have a switching station in Mansfield. So from there, we go up through the railroad tracks up to Elm Street in Foxborough by the DPW garage, the new DPW center. So we reconducted and replaced all those poles. And then it continues north through the woods up to DePonset Street, where the old Foxborough company is, and there's a substation across the street there. That's our Foxborough 1 sub. That feeds like everything north, like on North Street, up that part of town. Foxborough 2 feeds everything like the southern part of Foxborough. And yeah, this past Saturday, we had a squirrel that ran across right at Spring Street. So anything on the sub-transmission line, any fault occurs on that line, and a fault can be if a tree comes down face to face or face to ground. You have 3 lines. So as soon as something comes in contact with 2 lines, it automatically knocks it out. So it knocks out everything upstream from that. Okay? So we have to go and patrol the line and find out what caused the fault. So that was a squirrel. A squirrel, his little legs went across the 2 lines. He fried right at Spring Street, but he took out these 2 substations. So we had to send a truck out, and based on our amount of customers, we knew something happened from this point on. They found the fuse where the squirrel was, and they brought that back in about an hour and a half. That power was restored. So we've done all these improvement projects. The last project we have to do is we're doing more improvements at the Foxborough 2 substation, which is across from the DPW. That's what we're going to start this year. We also extended north on Route 1. We put all new poles up Route 1, and we put in a new substation across from Gillette Stadium. It's an addition to the substation at Crocker Pond, which is farther south on Route 1. So we bought property up there from the Kraft Group. We put a substation up there. So that's to help all the continuing growth that you have in the town. We're trying to keep up with that. So we put a new substation up there. And we have additional property. The long-range goal is to get another feed from the Eversource line, which is the north of town, to help us, rather than just coming from South Rentham, we wanted additional feed into the Union Loop. So that's our long-range plan, is to build up that substation. Right now, it just has a modular unit up there, but we have plenty of room to put a brand-new substation up there. So we're going to be doing that. We put a new transformer in across from Foxborough 1, across from the Ponset. So that is finished as well. So all of that, like I said, is $20 million worth of improvement projects that we're just about finished. We'll finish with Foxborough 2 probably by the end of this year. That's just the sub-transmission line, okay? Then in addition to that, that's a capital project that we did. We also have our regular maintenance plan, which is the trimming, and that's on your distribution lines. Our arborist works very closely with your tree warden. Not only do we do the trimming, so all the feeders out of these substations, every 5 years, we trim them. If the tree warden sees an area that's growing faster in the 5 years, they talk and they do additional trimming. We also have a hazardous tree program, and that's more than trimming, that's actually removing trees that we think would come down and harm our lines. And again, a lot of these are on private property as well as public property, so we work with the tree warden to help get rid of a lot of those as well. So those are the improvement projects we run. Now the storms that we just had. The first storm, and I have to get my notes because all these storms, I don't think I could keep all of them. So the first storm, Riley, National Grid, and we have in Massachusetts and Rhode Island, 520,000 customers were out at the height of the storm. And that was a whole tree event. So this was not just branches, this was large, massive trees coming down, taking down our lines, snapping like toothpicks in this area. And then obviously in the South Shore, we had flooding issues, but that's no concern of you folks. It's for all of National Grid. It was a 5-day restoration. We restored 98% of the customers within 5 days. To put it into numbers, 520,000 for National Grid. For the southeast area, which is, the southeast runs from the Marlboro, Westboro area all the way down to Fall River. We had 40,000 customers out at the height of the storm. 6,000 of them in Foxborough. In addition to Foxborough, just about every town in the southeast area had outages. 9,000 customers were out in Attleboro, Dayton 3,000, Fall River 5,000, Franklin 3,000, Norton had 6,000, Rehoboth 4,000, Seacon 5,000, and those are just the ones over 5,000. Every single community in the southeast had hundreds and thousands of outages. The reason for the main outages in Foxborough, again, we lost the feed to this Mansfield sub. So again, anything upstream from that, we lose. So Mansfield feeds Norton, so we lost all of Norton, and we lost these 2 substations in Foxborough. That was the bulk of the outages. So it was trying to find, and again, it was through the right-of-way we had to go through, and on the public way, trying to find what the problem was. It was large trees, we had to remove the trees. And then from that point, that's just getting the substations up and running. That's the first piece, getting the substations up and running. Then once they're up and running, then we can work on the feeders. And then we have to patrol all the feeders before we can put them back in. So losing those 2 subs lost most of the customers. The rest, we had some off our Crocker Pond substation, which feeds, I think it's off of Thurston Street, this lower section of Foxborough. We had some outages in that area as well. But the big percentage was the loss of these 2 substations. And as I said, the town of Norton was flat as well because we lost that substation. Until we got that up and running, that's where the bulk of the problems were in the area. Just to let you know how we do the restoration process. The first day during the storm, we really can't do much, especially in a storm this size. The winds were they were gusting to like 70 miles an hour. We can't go up in our bucket trucks if it's over 45 miles an hour. So basically, the day of the storm, we can't do anything. We do try to work with the chief, and basically, he's our incident commander. The chief is the person we deal with in all storms. We reach out to him. We have a liaison. Let them know that that's the main contact. So if there are roads that are blocked, it's public safety is the first thing that we do. Clearing the roads so that the fire trucks and ambulances can get into town. We don't do any restoration on the first day. It's just public safety. And we work with the chief to find out where do we start. And that's the process that we work. So we work hand in hand with the chief. Then from that point, once all the roads are cleared, then we can start the restoration process. And what we work on there is, obviously, we try to get the biggest amount of customers back first, as well as where the critical facilities are. We give the chief and the town, we give a list of where all the critical facilities, what we think are, and that's going to be your schools, your pump stations, your radio control centers, your fire stations, police stations, whatever the town deems critical, And we know where they are, what feeders they're on, so wherever there's a critical facility, that's what we look for first, that's what we try to get back. So folks that live out in the woods, where there's no critical facilities, something, you're gonna be the last ones to be restored, that's what happens. But if you live near a nursing home, or a school, or a fire station, you're apt to get your power back sooner. But that's basically how the process works. And again, we work with the chief every day. We have the chief has a liaison, that's usually during the daylight hours, the liaison stays with the chief, but we have a municipal room that stays open 24 hours for the whole duration of the storm, so they can call in, the chief, Bill can call in, anyone can call in with any other issues that they may have that we try to get addressed.
And then also conference calls, those are very
We have municipal
viable.
conference calls to let the cities and towns know what's going on, how many people we have out, how many crews we've got coming in. And again, just sort of explain what I just did. Public safety first, then restoration, and restoration is based on critical facilities. And the town tells us where they want, what they want restored first.
Chief, do you have a list of the critical?
Yes. And our senior housing's on there.
Okay.
So we go through that list every year faithfully.
Can we see a copy of it, the board?
Yeah, we can get you a copy. And, again, as Ann just said, it's basically dealing with your critical infrastructure of our community, public safety and that stuff. But our pumping stations that provide us the water and the hydrants in our sewer lines to make sure we don't have any backups, those are critical. Our senior housing's on there. So we go through that. We can get you guys a copy of that.
At the communication towers.
Yeah.
These things are usually out in the woods, and it's usually a couple of poles we've got to replace to get them. It takes time, but basically we work with the chief, and every day that list of priorities changes on what it is that we need to get addressed. And we do that with all the cities and towns.
Some of the areas that we really have to focus on as a community is really anything near the state forest. Their tree pruning program is good, but again, one of the things we've been talking about since 2010, and we've never really gone anywhere with it, is when everybody looks at Mansfield and they say, Mansfield goes without any power. How's this happening? Mansfield has a policy because they own the right-of-ways and they own the power lines, that they go from ground to sky away from their wires 10 feet out. So that's why they don't have the risk of having branches hitting their primaries. We do pretty well with their grooming program, but until we as a town give them the policy that we're going to do, and I understand we have historical areas that we wouldn't touch, that's still something we as a town need to make a decision on. Do we want to follow that type of model? If so, we put it in writing, we give it to National Grid, and that will limit some of those situations where the branches will actually touch the primaries. If a tree comes down, a tree's coming down. It's going to take the wires down. There's nothing we can do about that. That's an act of God. But I still think we as a community need to make that decision and give that direction to National Grid so that they can act on it.
I think it's important to add, too, that the one thing I think we've all collectively seen, the chief's been doing this for a long time, and as have I, and I can tell you that the storms in the recent years have been much more severe than the ones I'm used to seeing, and they've caused a lot more damage, which means that ground-to-sky clearing policy may be more timely to discuss now than ever, because we're getting to the point where it's becoming much more difficult to maintain those lines without some sort of tree policy that's clear.
And again, when talking about the wind, most of the times we have a storm because we're really far enough away from the ocean, our winds get around 30 miles an hour. This year, we had 4 storms that were well over 50-mile-an-hour bursts of wind. That's why we had such big tree damage. And I'll say that, the safety of their people is important. The last storm, one of their tree guys got thrown from the bucket, and he got injured very, very seriously. So we on top of our safety, we have to also take in consideration the safety of those folks. So I've never pushed it. If I have a situation that's really, really critical, we all put our heads together and come up with a program or a process that's going to fix it. Perfect example was on South Street. where we had a tree cracked. That tree needed to come down before it came down with Mother Nature, because it would have taken out all the power on South Street, but worse than that, it would have taken out the whole fiber network of our computer system in the town. So it was a matter of National Grid working with Foxborough Public Works, and we were able to get it down before it caused any more serious damage. That's the type of relationship we have with National Grid.
Just have a question. Chief Hatfield, you said you have a list of priorities, around nursing homes, schools, and stuff like that. Does the town still maintain a priority list for individuals, like someone who may?
Yes, we do. We have always worked a network, especially with Vicki Lowe in the senior center and also with Mike Johns, with all the veterans, on any of our residents that are folks that have medical needs, have machinery that they need, that their life is dependent on. We built that list. The last time I looked at it, it was like 38 people. That's one thing that that Vicki and Mike do very well, is they update those lists. We do have those in our dispatch center, so that if we get a call for that area, we know what to expect. They also do a call down.
Oh, good.
They do a call down when we know we have a major storm.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any questions?
Just a couple questions. So back in 2010, 2012, that's when President Marcy Reed came to talk to Foxborough. So the policies back then, we can say we all have policies, but the tree trimming was horrendous, back in that time. So what National Grid said is they were going to address the Union Loop and staff it and have call people and stuff like that. But in all fairness, there were issues with National Grid, staffing, layoffs, people that were so far away they couldn't get back here. Things have gotten better. But when I hear that like specifically Foxborough, the two areas that come to my mind that are high priority are Carling and Court and Centennial Court. Now, Centennial Court was one of the last places that got juiced up. There was a pull down on Market Street, and there were seniors in dire straits. And unique group, they didn't want to go to the place that you had set up over at the shelter, at the school. So is there a plan B when National Grid cannot get one of our priorities up, that we bring in portable generators, or figure out a way to make a priority area the priority area? Because I didn't see it last time, and I know National did much better than when this thing started and readdressing the programs, but I got to say, the two priority areas, you miss one of them, or somebody missed one of them.
But like I said, the amount of customers that we had out, we try to give every town, give us your 5 priorities, and that's what we have to work with. It's like, and we'll be pecked down from there. So.
Well, I think we're saying the same thing, but if we
Right,
gave
so
you
you have more than that,
unless
it's gonna take
those weren't the top two, am I missing something?
So from what I understand on that storm, that was the last one, and of course I was in Florida.
You were.
My deputies did a great job, though, I want you to know.
Yes, they did.
But that damage that was causing us not to get that up was the problem, from what I understand. Since then, and since I've gotten back, we're working with a plan to at least get generator power to their 2 rec rooms. Both of them have recreational areas. I have the generators. We're working to try to get them the connections, so that then all I have to do is bring generators there, and at least now we can make their recreational centers at both of the locations their own, like, warming center where they can charge.
Okay, so
We're working
to your
on
point,
that.
that's exactly what I was talking about. That's the plan
That's
B.
what we're working on. That's really not the responsibility of National Grid, but they do work with us to try to make sure that as fast as they can get their lines back up and running to those critical areas, and they are listed on our list as critical areas, they do it. Sometimes we run into problems on how much damage is between that structure, that facility, and their supply line.
Thank you.
Chief, you said you had generators.
Yeah.
These generators, would they have to be brought to the building and then
Yes.
started?
Yeah.
Why can you set up like
They
an
need
automatic?
ultimately, what we would need to do is get the state to fund, and in 2010, we worked very, very hard with House of Representatives Jay Barrows and at the time Senator Timilty to try to get the state to fund fixed generators for the 2 senior housing. It didn't happen. So until the state or they find funding for those type of large-scale generators, we're looking for the temporary. What can we do as a town for our seniors? And the best that I can do is if they can do the connections, I can at least get my guys to bring the generators there, and we can power them up. As we all know, our seniors don't like to leave their homes, and we don't like to move them if we don't have to. So let's try to figure out a way that until the state can help us, what can we do? And I think that that's a good, viable plan.
On that, I talked to Bill earlier today. I wanted him to set up a meeting first week in May or so with any of the people involved, you, him. I want to take this on to Senator Feeney and Jay, and kind of figure out how we can get generators for those.
Absolutely. And it's been a project that we've looked at faithfully. We did lose a little bit of wind on it because we were striking out constantly.
We talked about it after 2010.
Right,
and,
we did.
Yeah.
And we had a great campaign at that point, because when you look back at 2010, we lost power for 7 days, twice in an 8-week period. We had, and that was 100% knockout.
Yeah.
And so, knock on wood, we have not had 100% knockout since then. Came close, but we haven't. And so,
Just to add to that thought, the one thing that I think would work really well is to at least get the ability to the buildings to be wired, so we could actually connect right into the building and at least power up the main function rooms, so that people can at least gather there, stay warm, be fed, keep their whatever medical utilities they need to keep those running. And wiring the building would be something, of course, we'd have to work through the Housing Authority to get that done. The Housing Authority, of course, is not a town agency. It's a separate state agency that works through the town, but they've actually, I did speak with Chairman Mitchell earlier in the year about this very issue, and he said that he was going to work with us as well as in a cooperative way to try and get that done.
Yeah.
So it's an issue that we will certainly follow through on.
So I think it's important to note that this wasn't just isolated to National Grid.
No.
Been all over the state, properties all over the state, in Rhode Island, and we had power out. Providence, Brewster, Harwich, Norton. Obviously, we lost Norton for 62 hours. We were out in Haverhill for 5 days, 6 days. We never lose power in Haverhill. We lost power in Haverhill for 6 days. Our facility in Weston, they don't want to cut trees either. But they notoriously go out, and it's because of the trees, the close proximity and the easements. So I think it's something that we really need to take a hard look at, because one thing you're going to notice in a few weeks when spring and summer actually gets here, this is going to be out of sight, out of mind, and it's not going to rear its ugly head again until next winter. So it's important that we stay on it and don't let it go by the wayside.
Let's not forget hurricane season, too. Just another.
Yes.
You have to be recognized by the chairman, sir.
Yep, come on up.
So I've heard a lot about the maintenance and trees. Is there anything else besides trees and that you could maintain, like telephone poles, anything on little gadgets, transformers, whatever up
Like
there?
I said, we replaced, for the thing that supports the whole area, we replaced all the poles, put all new cable in.
Yeah,
So
I
it's all
meant
the same
basically in
size.
Foxborough.
We also put what we call pole top reclosers. We've added more of them around town. And what a recloser does, you probably noticed this. A recloser, it's like a sensing device. So when a tree comes down, hits a branch, it goes down, but then the branch comes up, so you see the power flick. And then it may flick up. So rather than the line just going out, usually if the tree comes down on the wires, the power's out, and then we have to send a truck. But what this recloser does is it waits, and then it'll test it again to see, okay, is there any fault on the line? If not, it'll bring it back, so there's so you see the flickering. So when you see the flickering, those are those reclosers working. So it doesn't take out the whole feeder. It'll just keep, but the things that mainly bring them out are trees, motor vehicle accidents, and squirrels.
So when
Those are our
those
biggest
things
causes.
happen, say trees fall on them, squirrels, cars, say over a 5-year period, is National Grid going around
Every 5
checking?
years, we continue that cycle every 5 years, and like I said, we work closely with the tree warden, so if there's an area that is growing faster than that 5 years, we work with the tree warden on that. And again, like I said, we also have this hazardous tree removal
But
program.
besides the
where we
trees,
actually
you know how to
remove the trees.
replace all those little things and transformers and like ongoing
We do,
checking?
yeah, we do for overloaded transformers, we have an overloaded transformer program, so we look at anything that's 75% and greater, and we replace that ahead of time, and we've been doing that, that's a regular maintenance program that we do.
Is that like a documented program with the town
Well,
checks
with
it?
the- with
Does someone
the
from the
company, we
town
have
call
it.
you and say, hey, it's been 3 years, you haven't done this, you haven't done that?
Well, we watch that, each transformer is loaded differently, so it depends on how much load is on each transformer, and each transformer size.
But would someone ask you?
We
Or
keep, well, we
send a
keep track
paper,
of
a
that.
report to the town and?
We run our, well, we don't do it, we do it for our whole distribution system, so when we.
So the town doesn't work with National Grid on a maintenance program documented?
No, we do that in our own, that's part of our
Okay.
regular maintenance plan. The only time we may have to get involved, because anytime we change out a transformer, you lose power while we do that, but we usually don't work with the town on that, we usually work directly with the customers.
The only two agencies that I know that talks directly to National Grid would be our tree warden.
Yeah.
David works very close to them, and myself.
Yeah.
But I only get involved with them when it's actually a storm or an outage.
Yeah, I mean,
We don't get deep into their infrastructure, other than we have seen the improvements on the Union Loop. If you've been
Right.
down 106, you see a lot of work
No, I hear
there.
you. I'm just
Yeah.
saying the basic things, like she said, if branches are bouncing off the lines and squirrels are zapping and frying, say that happens 100 times in 3
We
years.
try animal guards, but those things get.
I know, I'm just saying, after it happens.
Because you can come up with a
No, I
device
mean, I'm
that'll
saying
keep squirrels away from
after
our
all
equipment.
those things happen, say the little things, not storms,
Mhm.
shouldn't there be an ongoing maintenance of all the little gadgets and stuff if the
Yeah, we
things are
do have,
bouncing
like I
off
said,
the
we have a
line?
regular maintenance plan that looks
But
at.
if no one's checking it from the town and it's not documented, then
We
who-
have to report to the DPU on these plans, so
Who's-
that's something
who's
the
the
DPU
DPU?
makes us, the Department of Public Utilities, they're the
Okay.
ones that
All
make
right.
it. So we report to them that we're doing all these maintenance, regular maintenance.
All right, so I'm
I think it's
just trying to get an
important to-
idea.
for this-
If the
this
town
gentleman-
doesn't know, if the
Yes, sir.
town's not on top of it and saying, this happened, check, 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 this happened, check, and then a big storm comes and everything comes crashing down, you can't say, we did everything possible that we could have. It was just a big storm.
Sir, I can try and help you try and address that. So the town has no authority over National Grid.
Oh, I
okay?
understand that.
And nor does any other town in Massachusetts.
Oh, I
for that
hear
matter.
you.
What we do have is authority to work with them
Right.
cooperatively to say, look, these are areas that have impacted us during the past year or so. or-
Well, I understand the whole
and then-
authority thing.
Right,
but-
and the DPU has the authority over all National Grid as well as other power companies throughout the state.
So I think what's happening in Foxborough with the people, when these big things happen, like myself, I work outside, I plow snow, I'm away from home when these big storms happen. I have a 2-month-old, power's out, gonzo, my generator didn't work. Got very cold, not very cold, but 35, whatever degrees it was, so we got sick, overnight. I wasn't home. My fiance can't drive anywhere because the winds are 65 miles per hour. There's branches coming down, there's cars getting crushed by trees and telephone poles. So you're not going to take the 2-month-old out of the house to go to a shelter or somewhere warm or a town. So what happens, so our concern is, what if it was 5 degrees out? What if it was 0 or -10 degrees out? And not, luckily, in the wintertime, 35 degrees? Would we just 3 or 4 days, what would have happened if it was 0 degrees out? What would you have done?
Like I said, the
So
towns
what
have their
he
own
said,
vendors,
I
and
know,
we
but
try
what
to-
he said was, what is your backup plan if it's a horrible situation, 5 degrees out?
Our plan is to maintain our distribution system.
I know, but say subcontractors, like a simple thing like me, say we got 3 feet of snow instead of a foot of snow. I call in 5 more trucks and I say, this is gonna be, and I tell everyone, it's gonna be a delay, it's gonna not go well, things are gonna break, trucks are gonna break down, people are gonna quit, during the storm. They're gonna go home. So, but all we're dealing with is a driveway that's not gonna get plowed for a little while. But if we're dealing with elderly people and a 2-month-old baby, if it's over 3 days and they don't get out of the house, and they can't get out of the house, you know, and there's nowhere to go, so what's the backup plan? Can you get subcontractors from, say, Central America?
We had over 600 contractors.
No, I hear you, I know you do, but, so it seems like from what we thought, and I'm just saying this, it's not that I know, there weren't enough subcontractors in Foxborough working. And the frustration was that you could drive, I could drive from my house a mile away to Mansfield, and everything was as is. I could get a hot chocolate, a coffee, I could get Chinese food. I know they have their own municipal
No, you
and all
gotta
that.
understand, everybody is vying for those contractors. All of Northeast. was
I
affected by this.
understand
You get crews
that.
coming up from
So-
Tennessee.
Right. So I
Everybody's
think that,
vying
I'm
for
just
it.
trying to tell you, the
So many
frustration with Foxborough residents is that in Mansfield, who have their own electric, everything, for the most part, is as normal. And because they have their own electric, that's why, and their crews are, within 5 hours, the pole is back up, it's snapped in half.
Well, that wasn't true, sir. There were people out for 2, 3
I
days.
understand, yeah, I know, but I'm saying the center of town, everything was as is. I could order, we couldn't keep warm, but a mile away, I could buy a hot chocolate.
So I'm going to jump in, because I clearly respect what you're saying, especially when dealing with kids.
Right.
That lies on me. When we get to 48 hours, usually we always, and it's that cold, we, as a community, talk about it in length prior to and during of, and we open up a shelter. Now, that's what we can do, and that's my responsibility as the emergency management director, is to guide our community in those type of situations. Kudos to them versus some other power companies in the state. They do proactively get their subcontractors in time. Now, here's the thing. I agree with you in regards to looking at Mansfield. How do you feel about a clearance from ground to sky? Because that's one of the biggest,
I'd say
that's one of the biggest
definitely.
things.
I mean, if you're not cutting the trees,
Right.
say we're not doing the simplest thing of cutting the trees.
Right.
We're not doing it,
But there's a
period.
lot of folks.
Why not?
There's a lot of
If
folks
you
in the
have
community that don't agree with that.
Billions of dollars, right, and all these trucks, and you could snap your fingers and say,
Oh, I have a plan,
10-foot
but
clearance.
we've done it.
So we're talking about $20 million to new lines, new poles, and all this stuff, but we're not taking a chainsaw and cutting a tree.
Not all of them.
So the little things, it's like in my business, if I don't grease things, if I don't put oil in them, they blow up. I could say, I bought 4 new lawnmowers and 5 new trucks, but I didn't change the oil in them, I didn't do anything, I didn't put air in the tires. Guess what happens? Gonzo.
But, sir, not all the trees are in the public way. These are trees that are
Okay.
on private property.
Okay.
We cannot cut people's trees.
Okay.
It's
So
up to
one of the,
So in the
work with
event,
towns.
I'm saying, and I know there's rules and books and all this awesomeness, but in reality, you can't, would you have wished that the tree came down? Would the homeowner and you guys have wished the tree came down? Somebody worked, knock, knock, hey, what's up? We're from National Grid, we're trying to do a 10-foot clearance. Can we, for free, cut this tree down? They're either gonna say yes or no. So, again, documentation. Said no, absolutely not, get off my property, you're not touching my tree. Okay, so if that tree comes down later on, you can say, not our fault, not National Grid's fault.
Most of the trees that did come down were not on our hazardous tree plan.
All right.
So there were trees that came down that the town forestry person and our arborist
Right,
could
so,
not have guessed that's.
so when they say there's no
And it's
authority,
private
there's-
property.
we have no authority over you, I think people probably get mad at that, because there is no authority. Mansfield, luckily, 120 years or whatever ago, said, we want all our authority. So when you guys say you have no authority, and you don't have a say, and we're not gonna report to you, we're not gonna, you don't have a say in your maintenance, your trees, your whatever. It's us. But 23% hike in rate, right, 2015, 16% rate over the next 3 years, but you guys wanted way more, but the state said no. If I'm getting this right, I'm just reading off of Google.
Yes, we
So you want to
respect
tell everybody,
But like I
Rate
said, we
more,
spent-
you want to tell everyone, more money, more money, more money. Okay, we'll settle for 23%, we'll settle for 16%. But, you know, we're not going to cut the trees down, we're not even going to try, we're just going to say.
So
The trees are on us.
Right, so we're
Yeah,
gonna,
right.
we're gonna address that.
Okay.
All right, we're gonna look at.
People don't know in town. is what
Right,
I'm
so
saying.
we're gonna-
Residents
we're gonna-
aren't experts on the electrical
We're
grid.
gonna address this, we're gonna look at going ground to sky clearing, to work with National Grid. Hopefully, if we can get a 10-foot easement underneath all the wires on private property, that'll eliminate a lot of the nuisance squirrels, like happened. They'll have further to jump, they just don't have to walk from the branch because they do tunneling. So that stuff, we can
Yeah, so,
address as a
I mean,
community.
I looked at a little bit of research, not tons, but in Mansfield, they said, we mapped the whole thing, we know it head to toe, our crews know every inch of this town. Something goes wrong, they constantly doing preventive maintenance, constantly. If something does happen, truck goes out, it's repaired. So I think the whole idea in Foxborough is we understand the big storms and that stuff, but we don't have 5 crews preparing. Like, I prepare for snowstorms, it takes me a week to prepare for a snowstorm,
We're
you
constantly
know?
looking for things, like, things that you can see. Like I said,
Right.
we're patrolling our lines all the
Right.
time, looking for things that could happen and what we need to address.
But if
We
it's
add that
not
to our maintenance
documented
plan
and no one's
or-
checking it, is what I'm saying, because we don't have
But we just do
authority.
that on our own.
Because I know, but I could say, if you hired me, yep, I'm checking it, I'm doing it on my own. Sure, give me some money. Give me $1,000 a month, and I'll be by and I'll check it. Yep, hey, did you check that? Yep, I did. You know? So, that's what I'm saying. If we don't have any authority to ask you what you do,
Oh, you
I think
could
that's the
ask us.
problem.
I mean, we work with the town. Like I said, if they have an issue, we'll work with the
I
town.
know, but documented, like a plan, maintenance plan. We cut the trees. We didn't cut the trees on this road. There's 35
That's
trees
well
on this
documented. Our
road.
tree trimming plan
That's
is
well
documented.
We fixed the wires, we checked the wires, made sure they're all nice and tight, made sure the transformers, hey, that one's 55 years old, replace that transformer, you
We
know?
have a highly utilized feeders that go out a lot. If it's out, we have a lot of outages of a certain feeder, we look at that, what improvements, we run the whole feeder to see what we can do to improve it. So that's all part of our regular maintenance.
All right, so if the priority areas of not getting done, like he mentioned, and the center of town has no power, you know, you can't even get food. I think that one of the issues was, we thought power was out. If you see the power is, the town's black, you'd expect that to be everywhere. So I think the first thing that popped in my mind, oh my God, I'm not gonna be able to get any food, because all the supermarkets are gonna be out of, you know, they're gonna be shut down. But again, you can drive a mile away to another town and go to the supermarket, so, I mean,
So we're gonna open this up to other members of the community to
All right.
have questions.
Okay.
Thank you. Your points were well taken.
great, thanks.
Anybody else? Come on up. Just state your name for the record, please.
Brian Guild. Just wanted to try and follow up with some basic questions. So it sounds like town leadership has been pretty happy with National Grid's performance, but is there a place where we could improve our executive touch points with the company to try to head off some of these issues at the pass? I'm not sure if there's a...
And again, I think that really, from my point of view, it's got to be the tree program.
Yep.
I'm very excited and very pleased with the Union Loop upgrades. That was a big problem to us in 2010. The amount of work that they've done on that has been impeccable. One of the other areas that we have to really look at, both National Grid and us, is all of our town that abuts the state forest. Those trees are just towering over all the power lines, and that's part of the tunneling issue that we have.
Okay.
So those are the areas that I see that
That was a major concern, because once you lose trees in that area, that's the most difficult area to clear.
Yeah.
No question.
Yep. And then a question for National Grid. Just wanted to understand, is there a way that you determine the priority of your restorations? Is it based on population? Is it based on revenue? How do you guys figure out where to deploy your crews?
It's based, like I said, we deal with the chief.
Okay,
We get our
yep.
priority, we get out, where do we hit first? And
Yep.
usually it's the biggest chunks of customers we can get back. and where the critical facilities are.
Okay.
That's what we start with. And
Yeah.
like I said, the critical, the evacuation centers, police and fire, any DP, any of the buildings that, you need for snow plowing, things like that, your nursing homes, those are the things we go at. And like I said, the bottom of the list are the customers, the onesie twosies that are out, that's the last thing we
Yeah,
restore.
sure.
Somebody who has to replace their service on their house, then it's usually we go through with a bunch of crews, we just sweep the town and just hook everybody back up.
So none of that is based on population or revenue for the company?
No, it's, we work with the town, we get
Okay.
we get our marching orders from
I
the town.
think it's also important to note too that we actually get notified by National Grid 24 to 48 hours before a storm.
Right.
That they're opening up their emergency operations centers, they're deploying people into various communities to make sure that their teams are ready when the storm hits, and then they can actually direct their crews accordingly. And they actually put a contact person right in the public safety building. So they speak to us, and then we have emergency operation meetings throughout the storms and even after the storms to make sure that everybody is clear about what the priorities are.
Okay, yep. And is there an area here in town where National Grid keeps spare equipment for staging purposes? Or is all spare equipment having to be brought in from other areas?
Depending on the storm, that does change from, depending on what areas are hardest hit, but Hopedale is our closest area to
Hopedale,
here.
okay, yep.
But we have used Gillette Stadium in the past.
Okay.
For stage outside crews.
Yep.
But that's the main things, where can we stage them, but most of them are in hotels.
Okay.
That's where we keep all the outside crews, and that's where we need all our staff.
Okay, but equipment though? Equipment is
Hopedale.
Hopedale? Okay.
Hopedale's that's the main area
Yeah.
from here.
It's where all the transformers, telephone poles.
Okay, okay. And then just two more brief ones. Who is responsible for streetlights, maintenance of streetlights here in the town?
We
Is
are
that-
now, because we own the streetlights now. Now, what's happened is
okay.
that most recently, we've acquired all the streetlights. I think that's complete now. Is that Chris, right, Chris? Where we've acquired all the lights, and we've been replacing them with new lights, with new LED lights.
Yeah.
And so a lot of those lights are, they're all warranted for several years, right? And that program is nearing completion. We're not fully complete yet. But we're
Yeah.
So then we owned half the lights in the town, so there was.
Oh, it's been cutting, okay.
It was
yeah,
half and
yeah.
half, and the town just purchased the other half, so.
Yeah.
So we did have some involvement in that, but just recently the town did purchase all the lights, so.
Yeah.
The only lights that we still maintain are privately rented lights, floodlights,
Yeah.
and things like that, like a private business owner, like a floodlight for their parking lot, we still want to maintain.
And just so you know why we did that, is because it's a lot cheaper for the town to do it that way. By owning the lights, it's an asset that they have to maintain. If we replace them with new LED lights, the lights last a lot longer and actually provide a better light for the streets, like a lot whiter, cleaner light.
Yeah.
And actually, our experience has been pretty positive so far.
Yep. The reason why I ask is I've had one that's out for about 2 weeks since
Okay.
the last storm, and Barbara Kelly's been really helpful.
Okay.
But I don't feel like she's really getting any great answers.
Barbara calls me all the time.
Oh, okay.
Yes, yeah, she does.
Barbara calls me every
Oh,
day.
okay.
Yeah, she does.
Yeah, I'm not sure why it's been out for 2 weeks, but it is what it is.
Maybe one of those,
Windsor?
Oh, Windsor, that's underground.
Yeah.
it's underground.
I'd love to speak with you about it. Last but not least, is there anything that we can do as a community to encourage the Board of Selectmen to make this decision about the tree trimming? And what would that look like as citizens? How can we help? It sounds like a great idea. I think it's excellent, right? So.
Have to be a policy discussion. It would have to be, we'd have to have the reasons explained why to the public and to the board as to why it's a positive and negative, what the negative implications are.
Would that be a bylaw?
It could be, it could be a bylaw. I would think a bylaw, probably a bylaw, because
Yeah,
it wouldn't
we'd have to go to town
be,
meeting.
it's not an ordinance, it would be a bylaw in this community.
Okay, thanks for your time. Thank you.
Any other questions from the audience? Pat?
At Stevens Mechanic Street. Who are we to call first when there's no power? You or you?
Call them, please. That's one of the biggest messages that we put out on all of our social medias and all of our networks with Foxborough Cable. Calling us just ties up the 911 system.
Okay.
The great thing is putting the apps on your phone, because again, if we lose power, sometimes you don't have a computer. But there's a lot of information available to you now that we all have smartphones. is you can go right on your phone, and their maps are there, and you can look and see where the outages are, and you can actually even put some information in there. But please call National Grid.
And I just want to explain, it's not like there's a big board we have up, and when the lights go out the board. We depend on you to call. That's the only way we really get out. So you have to call us. So if there are people that, oh, my neighbor's going to call, I have to call, my neighbor's going to call. There could be a small section of town, no one called us. We don't really know. So you have to call us. And then depending on how many phone calls we get, like I said, we know what feeder everybody is on and what circuit you're on and what fuse you're off of. Everything is connected in our system. So if the system analyzes it based on the more amount of calls we get. So the more calls we get, the better we can analyze where the outages are.
Okay.
And I do want to jump into this real quick, because I want to put a disclaimer. If the power line's down, I want to know about it. If a tree is down, I want to know about it. If the tree hits your house, I want to know about it. Those type of things, I do want to hear from you.
We call those the 911 calls.
Yeah, we want to hear, and we'll make the determination if there's any danger to you or your family or to your structure. And we have, if there is, we have a hotline that bypasses everything and goes directly to National Grid.
And those outages are noted as 911 calls, and those go to the top of the heap. So anything we get from the fire and police, especially the wires down, because that, again, helps us analyze where we send our crews. We want to know where the trees are down, what roads are blocked. We need to know those. And then the outages, that's the outages, but we need to know from you. And you don't have to talk to somebody. We have an automated system as well as a 800-322 number that you can just call and just say your address and hang up. But we do depend on you to call.
So if you're out for one day, you call. If you're out the second day, do you want a second call? Or a third day, or a fourth day?
You know what's a good time to call
Because
again?
I called the fire department on the third day, and they said they had no answer from National Grid when power was going to be back.
The best time to call the second time, okay? All your neighbors have power, but you don't. Then you definitely have to call.
Well, I'm on a main street with only one lady next door.
Because what happens is, like I said, a feeder. We restore a feeder, all the lights come on. There are so many, what we call the smaller feeds off of the branches. Okay, you're not on the main line. If you're on a branch, you could be out of power. We could bring back the whole feeder. We think you're back. So if you say, hey, everybody in my neighborhood, everybody on the main street come back, but I didn't come back, then we need to know. We need to send a truck out, because a fuse could be open going down your street. So when all the power comes back, you see everybody else's lights come on and yours don't, you definitely should call us. Because like I said, we don't know you're still out. And that does happen a lot in these big storms. We clear it, we think everybody's back, and there could be sections that are out. There's other things, because anything can make a fuse open up. So, and that's what costs, and we can't go out and drive down every street. We drive down the main line to look for things, and we have to drive down before we energize that feeder. We have to drive down every main line before we energize, or it's never going to come back. So, but we don't do every little, what we call a side tap. So we depend on our customers to call us. And we actually do call outs. We do robocalls as well. And people don't like when they're out 3 days and we're still calling and asking if they're out. But just to make sure our system is correct, we do make calls out. If you have power, if you don't have power, just to verify who really is out and who came back.
Okay. So the fact that the fire department told me that they hadn't heard from National Grid as to when any power would be back?
The fire department had a liaison, so I'm speculating this was on the 48, when we were out for 48 hours?
I was out until Monday.
Okay.
From Friday to Monday. And
I
then
know
there
for
were 6 trucks along
yeah,
the
so
along the
I
day.
know we had the liaison. You probably called dispatch, and I'm speculating?
I have no idea.
I don't know.
Called the fire department number.
Okay, so then you got a hold of dispatch. I always try to keep them up to breast on where we are. I know that we had a liaison, so they had a list of knowing where all the outages were. Usually you'll see my deputies and myself driving around, especially when we have outages. We're looking for those fuses that are popped so that we can start to build a list to give to the liaison, because sometimes it might not be even any damage at all on your street, but that fuse is popped. And so we try to identify them so that they know which ones have to be popped back in. But
especially at the end of the storm, we just
Yeah.
give out packets to the crews and and they start from the beginning and work their way out. So we don't know exactly who's gonna come back first.
We-
It's out on the
Well,
trucks.
I wasn't aware either,
Yeah.
except the YMCA is right behind me, and I
Right.
had to work, so when on my way home from work Sunday, I called, and they were open, so I came home expecting I was going to be on, and I wasn't, which is when I called the fire department.
But it is important, we depend on our customers to call us, it helps our system analyze better. And if the power comes back in the neighborhood and you're still out, you definitely gotta call us. This could be a single problem just for you, or it could be your whole street, like I said, a fuse could have blown. Sometimes, the underground, everybody thinks underground never loses power. Well, guess what, the underground is just from the overhead, so the fuse at the top of that street goes out. And like I said, there's nothing to show that that went out, except you can see the thing hanging down. And that's what the fuse is. Everybody thinks the transformer blew, it's not the transformer, it's the fuse that makes that loud banging noise. And that's what we drive around looking for.
And we've had a liaison from National Grid since 2011 to now, every time we've had a power outage, so. Sorry that you got some
That's
wrong
okay.
information.
No, I
will
don't
look
want
into
to
it.
keep bothering people back and
Oh.
forth, so,
Yeah.
but thank you.
You're welcome.
Thanks.
I just have a question.
Chief? Sure. Chief?
Thank you.
Yes?
Ann?
I just had a question. Sometimes when you get a power outage, you call the National Grid number, and what you'll get is a recording saying, yes, we're aware there's, a power outage. But does National Grid register the phone when you call, like, from
Our automated line, we have
Right.
an automated line, and we have a line you have to hold on and talk to somebody. We have a voice response unit,
Yeah.
that's a different number, and I don't have the number off the top of my head, it's like 800-465-1212. That's an automated number, you don't have to talk to anybody, it goes by your phone, we know what phone number is on the account, and we put an order in for you automatically.
Okay, but that's, if you have a landline, that's probably the number. What about if you're calling from a cell phone?
And the cell phones, it's kind of iffy, because depending what cell, we had a lot of problems with cell towers being down in the storms too, so we had a lot of problems with that. But the best thing is to call like I said, if you, because a lot of people don't have a landline anymore, and we just have the cell phone numbers, or they're calling from another number, or if you're calling for another number, it doesn't pick up.
Yeah.
So you have to call from whatever number is registered with us.
Okay, so can you register both your landline and your cell phone number?
You can, yeah, you have to call us ahead of the storm, and make sure we have both numbers on your account.
Okay, is that something that, like, when you get the bill from National Grid?
You won't see it on your bill.
No, I mean, can you, like, is there a form or something that says, hey, add my cell phone number to my?
You have to call us. I don't think we have any forms for that. We do have forms, like I said, for the medical, like we send out on a regular basis for customers that do have, oxygen and things like that. We keep track of those too. And we send out robocalls to those folks, especially, like I said, at the height of the storm, we knew right from the beginning, this is gonna be a 3-day storm. People are gonna be out for 3 days. We told everybody that. Plan for it. Get ready for it. People are gonna be out for 3 days. And that's what we tell those people, that anyone who's registered that has that medical problem, we let them know. So if you can't take care of yourself, you gotta make other arrangements. So we make those robocalls to our medical folks. And all the nursing homes and hospitals, we do call-outs to them as well, let them know how long, what could possibly happen.
And our messages mirror that. All the messages that go out with the Foxboro cable and everything that we've been doing here says prepare for sheltering in place for 72 hours. So, knock on wood, we don't have that happen too often.
Yeah, so you should call National Grid to say, okay, you have my landline, but I want you to.
What number do you have online for
have-
me? Can I please add, because we do have a spot for 2 phones, so either one. But like I said, we did have problems with cell phones coverage. I think it had to do with the cell towers and
Yeah.
stuff. And we do, and the lines do get backed up, so that's why hopefully if you can use that VRU, that's the best way. You don't have to wait in line, it should automatically take it. And that's posted on our website. But like, and the chief says that our outage central, that's a great thing to look at as well. We post everything on that. Although with storms, it does get kind of crowded and everything, and there's a time delay in updating it, but all the information is there.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for the presentation.
Thanks, Ann.
Thanks,
you. Thanks, Chief.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Chief.
Okay, a little behind schedule. Approve the DPW contract.
motion? Or do you want to build a?
Bill, you want to give us a quick overview of this, or we're pretty much set to?
I think a motion would be in order, Mr.
Move to approve the DPW contract.
Second.
Motion made, second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Okay. Sign warrant items.
So the board has the latest version of the warrant. Just want to bring this up.
If we are to sign this, so like number 19, it's highlighted, most likely will be coming off?
Yeah, it is coming off.
Okay.
So I was just going to go through this right now. I'm waiting for the PDF to come up right now. Okay. If you go through the list itself, the Pratt School is off, and so we would most likely substitute that number 19 to be the new, amend the sewer service area map. So that will be the new 19, and we are going to request that you remove the hawkers, peddlers, and transient vendor bylaw. That's, there's been further review by town council and the chief that said they want to have further discussion about that for the special in the fall. So, effectively, there'll be 24 article, I believe 24, if I'm mistaken, 25 items for consideration. I know that there has been some request made by the planning board chairman to see if the zoning articles could be moved up in consideration in the order. Mr. Chairman, do you want to address that? Or?
Yeah, the Route 1 zoning and the Water Resources Protection District, concerned about not having a quorum, keeping those late. And these are really important articles that really needs the majority of the town meeting attendees to hear. And I think, Kevin, if you want to come up and and talk about it. The planning board and the economic development committee has been doing quite a few public presentations. Zoning is not sexy. It's not the buzzword that's going to get people in the seats, but it's important changes to open up development opportunities on Route 1.
Very much so. So, I mean, the potential there to add millions of dollars in revenue back to the town is riding on the fact that, based on the master plan, we feel that that is going to be the economic engine for the town. And there's a lot of major changes that the town meeting as a body needs to hear and give consideration to. There's real opportunities there for people in the S1 that they didn't have in the past, to bring some equity to that zone for things that were already allowed in the economic development area. And we just think it's critical that the full body gets a chance to listen to it and give it their best shot at hopefully voting it in. So we would really appreciate the consideration of the board to move it up closer to like near where the capital improvement is, and that somewhere past that. I know that that's an important area for you guys to deal with budgeting and capital improvements and stuff like that, but as close to that area as we can get.
Another consideration is those zoning articles need a 2/3 vote.
Thank you very much for reminding us.
It would be quite obvious if there was not a quorum, and you have to count 2/3 vote.
Right.
So that's why it's a good idea to bring it.
Through the chair, just a question more of anything else. Are you lower just luck of the draw
Well, traditionally zoning tends to get the back seat in the meetings, both the May meeting and the fall meeting. But, and traditionally, we don't really come to the board and ask them to move us higher up in the pecking order. But these are important and they're new, and we really feel that, as much of the body as can hear it, we'll give it a fair shot at getting passed.
It's a fair question, Mr. Elfin, in the sense that it is but it is actually tradition in many communities that zoning is one of the last thing that gets acted on. It's, but it does happen from time to time where the significance of the issue is such that the board has the right to reshuffle the deck as requested by those who are looking to change it.
So what do we have to do to change it?
You would just have to make a motion to change the order of the requested articles, which are, I believe, right now they are Articles 24.
23.
The 23.
They will be 22 and 23.
23.
Yes, that's right. So it would be the Route 1's, probably just take them by title, the Route 1 zoning article, and amend zoning, the bylaw, the WRPOD. Is that one of them too, I believe?
Yeah, Water Resource Protection Overlay District, yes.
And then what about the accessory structure? I think that's not as significant, but
If you could move them all up, that'd be great. If you feel you have something else that's major, then we'll understand.
entirely up to the board as they want.
You're not planning on leaving early, are you?
No, not at all. Usually hang out to the bitter end,
Does this mean that the warrant will have to be
Just reordered. It'll be
reordered?
reordered,
Or
yeah.
can we just, at town meetings, say, we're going to take these out of order?
It's probably easy just to reorder them. It's all word processing. We can do that pretty
Okay.
easily.
Well, it's probably better.
It would be less confusing to people, too.
It'll be posted, yeah.
Right.
Yeah, I'd rather move them now if.
Yeah.
Right. It gives people proper notice.
So do we need a motion?
Yes, a motion would be in order to do that.
So do you want to put them in, like, in between 5 and 6?
No,
I think
I would say between
probably
10 and
after
11.
Oh, that far down?
Probably after number 9. Would that be acceptable?
Somewhere up in there.
Okay. So I make a motion to move warrants, well, they're going to be 22 and 23, but maybe the Route 1 zoning and the amended zoning bylaw, WRPOD, from where they are now to, let's say, 11 and 12?
With the zoning bylaw, accessory.
Oh, and bylaw, yeah, accessory structure, yeah.
You could do it, they become the new 10, 11, and 12.
Yeah,
And then there's one on the last page too, 25, amend zoning bylaw, residential large scale.
Ground solar.
What's the last one?
The ground solar one.
The ground solar.
Yeah, and if you can keep them together as a cluster, it would be helpful. I mean,
Yeah.
So it would
All
be-
4?
It would be 10, 11, 12, and 13.
Yeah. Move them to 10, 11, 12, 13. Well, we're going to keep, it's going to be after 10, so it would be 11,
No,
12.
it would be, we do 9, and then 10, 11, 12, and 13, and then the.
Oh, then the budget
then the
adjustments,
budget
okay.
adjustments,
Yeah, so move.
And just and for no other reason, and Kevin's been doing this for a long time, and I fully agree with what you're saying. If the quorum starts to lose steam, then you might not get to vote on it. But just be cognizant, I mean, there is an art in some towns of where you place things, to your point. Younger crowds might come in and vote for something and then leave, so they want that on there early, some of the older crowds. So there is a lot of discussion of where things are on the agenda. And again, I agree with you, and I know why you're doing this. But be cognizant of that when someone else comes in and says, well, we want this up here, a contract, because they want it voted early for whatever reason.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
there is rhyme and reason of not just
Yeah.
moving these around.
Typically, the budget items are done early.
right.
I made the motion.
Second.
Motion made, second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all's in favor?
Aye.
Thank you very much for your consideration. We appreciate it.
Thanks, Kevin.
So, Mr. Chair, members of the board, members of the board, the issues before you now, is if there are any questions or issues regarding recommendations of the board relative to any of the articles that are there right now. I've not heard from anyone, so I'm not I've not heard any changes, any changes proposed or other changes other than ones that have just been voted on. So the question is, what is the board's position relative to each of these items? Or I particularly would need recommendations for you on the budget and the CIP budget items, which also is a separate article for the track and field and stands. But I think it would be appropriate, as you normally do, to go through them and take your position on them.
Okay.
How would you like to proceed?
Well, let's run through them
Okay.
one by one.
Article 1 is pretty standard. It's the annual town elections, as is Article 2 and Article 3. So those are normal operating requirements, warrant requirements.
Article 4 is the budget, right?
Yeah.
Any changes to any of those items or Article 5?
Article 4, anybody have any issues with Article 4?
No.
I may have one with number 1.
Are we voting to just present these to town meeting, or are we voting whether the Board of Selectmen supports these?
Right, well, normally the board does take its position on each of these articles before you, and it does get included, there's a column that says Selectmen's position, support, not support. So we're hoping that I shouldn't say that, with respect to the budget and the capital process, that's where usually you're designated. The rest of them, the advisory committee makes its recommendation, and that's the one that goes to town meeting.
Right.
You sure about that?
Yeah, I don't remember taking a position on these.
I thought you've taken a position on whether you support or not support each of these articles.
We've done it differently. We've had, years back, we had 2 separate columns with the advisory committee recommendation and the selectmen's recommendation.
For the budget?
I thought for all of them. I could be wrong, but
I think it's just the budget, though, Jim, to be honest with you. I wasn't the impression that because the way the warrants normally work is that the advisory committee's recommendation is the one that goes to town, because it's their report.
Right.
That goes to town meeting. All right, so, but this town has always carried the recommendation of the selectmen, at least on the budget part of it, and the capital improvement plan. So that chart, I think that's the chart you may be referring to.
So if you see a selectman, a positive vote, it doesn't, or a negative vote, well, say if any one of us says yes, there's 2 meetings, it's we support it, or we may not necessarily support it, but we support it going to town meeting.
Right, that was.
Well, see, there's 2 things. It's on this is your warrant, okay? So you have the right to include an item on the warrant or not include an item on the warrant. That's your call. The other thing is that, except for those that are petitioned articles, you don't have a choice on that. That's petitioned by citizens, and that automatically goes on. As far as recommendations go, the only thing that you've normally recommended on was the budget itself, the budget and the capital plan. So if any article stays on the warrant, it's because you've allowed it to stay on. And that's normally the process.
I thought in the past, though, we have voted whether the selectmen support it or not.
I believe you have. But I don't know if that's actually carried in the warrant report itself. That part I'm not 100% sure on. I know you've taken positions on all the articles. I know that's I recall seeing you do that. And I know it's actually, as far as the budget goes, it's included.
So do we have 2 motions for each article? 1 to leave it on the warrant, and 2 to take a position?
Well, one thing you might want to do, just to make things easier, is to go through the warrant, Are there any articles that you don't want to include in the warrant other than those that we've already identified to you? That might make it easier. So, and then the question is, what your position is, we have to go through them one by one.
Yeah, I don't remember doing that.
Like I said, on the budget, I'm very clear about it, but in the capital plan. And it's done in different ways in different communities, so it's confusing to me at this point. But I believe that's your process here.
So, let's do it a little different. Is there any warrant article that we see that should be taken off? Any members have any concern about any warrant article that they see that's still on the list that hasn't been slated for removal?
At this point, can we change any of them, or is it make a revision to it or a suggestion?
Well, they're closed, but we haven't signed it.
No, we closed it, the list is set, right? The list, the number that are, the warrant.
It's not final until
It's not
it's signed.
finalized, yeah.
Right.
Just a question. Is it?
At this point, I think it's probably best just to either recommend or not recommend. But, I mean, you still have the right to include or not include. That's your authority.
Mm-hmm.
But we don't have to state a position on it, a voted position?
The budget you do have to do that, because that's normal procedure, the budget and the capital plan. Because that's required by the process, by the bylaw.
What I could remember, I thought we voted a position on each one.
If there's any question about whether you do it, I mean, if, you can record your position on it, it's in the minutes. Ultimately, like I said, the warrant itself, report of the Finance Committee is the only thing that carries the recommendation, other than the budget itself, where it lists the different columns. It gives the recommendation of the town manager, it gives the recommendation of the Board of Selectmen, and it gives the recommendation of the Finance Committee. And those three columns are listed. And so that's, and as of right now, the budget that I've recommended to the Finance Committee has been endorsed by the Finance Committee as written, with no changes. The question is, if the board has any changes on that, or they want to recommend something different, you have that ability to do that.
With the exception of item 16, warrant article 16, where it's a citizen's
That's correct.
petition. Now,
That's correct.
and maybe I missed it, but I don't remember getting a presentation on that or any discussion. This originated from a business owner.
A citizen's petition, correct.
Okay. So your position or your guidance on the ability of us to, why even vote, right? Since it's coming in and we can't say no.
It's a citizen's petition, so you can't take it off. So the only issue is whether or not you have a position on it. They haven't made a presentation to you, but they have made presentations in other forums. So the question is whether or not you want to take a position. If they haven't made a presentation to you, I wouldn't take a position on it. Because you haven't heard the pros and cons.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, he's not the sponsor of the article, though.
Correct, but I am
So-
representing several businesses in opposition to that article.
Understood, but without, absent a presentation, you can't hear both sides of it.
And this isn't a public hearing.
Right.
So.
Understood.
So on that one,
Well, wait a minute, it's not a public hearing, it's a public meeting.
it's a public meeting, but it's not listed as an agenda as a discussion.
We can't.
open it to the public. I mean, we can't have people coming in and discussing it if you're not going to have both parties here.
It's kind of a moot point if we can't take it off to even discuss it.
No, but I respectfully disagree a little bit. If it's on the agenda listed to discuss all of these, then it's open for discussion, whether, if people want to be here or not. Granted, it's unfortunate you take a stab at which 26 we're going to talk about, but the fact that it's on here, I think we're obligated to talk about it.
Well, yeah,
And
we're
if somebody
obligated to
wants
talk
to-
about it, but to have a public debate and not have all parties here.
It's a preference. It's up to the chairman, right? It's your, how you want to run the meetings, but to say you can't talk, you can't listen to input because it's not on the agenda item and as a public hearing or meeting. I mean, you could say no to everybody or yes as a chairman, right?
Yeah, we generally don't do that. We allow people to speak.
I mean, it's just odd, we got to this point and there hasn't been any discussion whatsoever. So,
I don't remember the last time we had a citizens
It hasn't happened a lot.
petition.
I haven't seen one, I think this is the first one I've seen here.
So in something like that, they're taking the risk, bringing it to town meeting and presenting it.
They did make a presentation to the AdCom on the issue. And I think the AdCom requested it, if I'm not mistaken. Right.
so maybe if we don't have the ability to say no, maybe they took the gamble and said it's not either worth their time or maybe they didn't know. I don't know.
I don't know.
Well, at town meeting, is that the place where the petitioner and would speak to this to town meeting?
Yes.
And then anybody else can talk?
That's correct.
So that'll be
debate will occur
that'll be
there.
the forum for the pros and the cons.
Right, more often than not, I believe that the selectmen are looking for reasons why there is any merit to whether or not an issue would be kept on the warrant or not. In this case, it's required that you have to keep it on.
And it's on here because they got 50 signatures?
Actually, it's only 10, I believe, for an annual meeting. It's the special requires, I think, 200
So 10 signatures by a
for an annual town meeting warrant.
citizen or resident gets it on as a warrant article.
Have you heard just on the issue of the procedure?
I've never seen this before.
About the article?
Yeah, yep.
Thank you.
We'll let you.
Have a seat, Joe.
Joe, you'll be next.
Mark Stopa, on behalf of Foxborough Wine and Spirits, Express Mini Mart, Route 1 Wines and Spirits. My question or my comment with regard to how you approach this is, as you pointed out, this is very rare that there's a citizen's petition. This citizen's petition in particular seeks to compel this board to take action, which it may or may not want to do. It, in my opinion, seeks to take authority away from this board and cause you to do something, perhaps even against your will. So in that regard, I would suggest to you that I think the board should take a position on it, whether it be here or at town meeting, so that your voice is heard. We can't just sit silently and let a citizen who got 10 signatures, that's all that's required.
I believe it is 10. Yeah.
Who got 10 signatures to put something on the warrant, put a warrant article in, and take the risk that town meeting attendees don't understand either the process or the import of it without some position taken by this board. That would be my concern.
Mr. Chairman, I'm going to respectfully disagree with counsel here, because I believe that the request from the petitioner is to gain an additional license for the town for an all-alcohol license, package store license. Ultimately, if that license gets granted to the town, that still goes back to the board for consideration. You ultimately have the authority whether you want to grant it, whether that license is.
I think you misunderstood me, because the core is it's a multi-stage process. The core of it is to compel this board to petition the state for that license. And
Okay, fair enough.
I think that if,
Well, it says,
Town meeting would do that.
to see if the town will vote to authorize the Board of Selectmen to petition the court to adopt the following legislation.
and that goes to the core of what my concern would be, is that this warrant article seeks to compel you to do something, and it may not be something you want to do, I don't know. And while you can't, because it's a citizen's petition, not have it go forward, I think it's critical that your position be known. Again, it doesn't have to be known tonight. I'm prepared to discuss the issue. I knew this was on the agenda for this evening. I'm here, one of my clients is here, and ready, willing, and able to be heard. But that aside, I think this board has to take a position on that warrant article simply because of the nature of it. Perhaps there are other citizen-type petitions where it wouldn't need that, but I respectfully suggest that this one does require that from you.
I just have two questions for clarification. This is a citizen's petition?
Yes.
That means it's a citizen of the town of Foxborough?
Yes.
Petition?
Yes.
This man is a business owner in the town of
He's not a
Foxborough.
citizen
Does he
of
live in the
Foxborough.
town of Foxborough?
Not that I'm aware of.
Well, he did file the proper paperwork with the clerk's office, so it doesn't necessarily mean it was him. It could be people that have applied for it properly through it has been certified through the town clerk's office.
But if this is a citizen's petition of the town, a citizen of the town of Foxborough,
Understood, but I understand your point.
Right,
But I guess the
so-
question is, does it have to be the business owner that applies for it, is the answer. And it doesn't necessarily have to be.
but it was the business owner who
I think he's the advocate for it. I don't know if he's actually the petitioner. That I don't know.
Yeah, he was, yeah, he's the one that got.
I think he's
the
identified
signatures.
himself as the petitioner.
Okay,
So if he's not a citizen of the town of Foxborough, he's not a registered citizen of the town of Foxborough,
but he
then
he
does
has
have-
required the required number of signatures to do that, though, is my point.
And also, my second question about signatures, do those signatures have to be from people in the town of Foxborough?
Yes.
Registered citizens in the
Yes,
town of Foxborough?
absolutely. And it had to be cleared through the town clerk's
From what I understand, a lot
office.
of them are not.
No, it had to go to the town clerk's office to be confirmed, yes, in order to be placed on a warrant.
I'm actually going to argue against my position, just but in the spirit of fairness. I think if there's a business owner who is subject to the licensing of this board, wants to bring in a petition, they probably have the ability to do that, irrespective of whether they actually lived a private life in town. If they're a business owner in town licensed through this board, they probably have the right to do that. I haven't researched the issue. As to
They're a
the
taxpayer. They're a taxpayer.
Exactly. As to the other aspect of your question, I think you might be confusing some of the affidavits or statements that were presented. Those were from people outside of town in support of this petition. And I do
agree with
recollect that most of those were from out of town kind of people. I assume that the clerk's office took care of making sure that it had.
Yeah, we
all-
could not bring it forward to you unless it had gone through that process.
I don't, any other questions?
Sorry for the misunderstanding. It was-
I just respectfully request that this board at some point take a position on this. I think it's too important. Thank you.
Thanks, Counsel.
All right, so we still go back, okay? Yes, Joe?
Good evening, Joseph Garrity, 63 Mill Street. I was wondering, how many warrant articles are going to be approximately for town meeting this year?
23?
25.
25.
Okay. Does that still include the track and stands?
As of right now, yes.
No.
We haven't voted it off the island, Joe.
All right, so did it get voted, so tonight's the final vote, right?
Tonight, we finalize the warrant of what gets on the town warrant.
Okay.
So, again, going back to the original question. Should we make a motion for each one of these warrant articles to leave it on the warrant? And then go back and specifically on Article 4?
or any of them.
Take a position?
So my recommendation to you would be that you take the list and ask if there are, make a motion to approve the warrant as recommended, which is, you've done a couple things tonight. I've asked that you remove the Pratt School article and the Hawkers and Peddlers article. But you've also included the amend the sewer service area map article, which means that there are now 25 articles. You've changed the order of the articles, and you did that by motion. So I think one motion could be that you include all the, I make a motion that all the articles as presented be included on the warrant this evening, as presented this evening.
And as amended?
And as amended. That could be one motion. The other way to do it is to go one by one, but my thought would be that you do that with your position on each of the articles. Just my recommendation.
So just as clarification, we can group them all together now and say, let's approve them, but then go
Put 'em on the
through one
warrant.
by one and see how our
As to what your
stance
position
and-
is on, right.
Okay.
All right?
So you ready for a motion? Or is that the way you want to do it, through the chair?
Yeah, let's make a motion.
All right, so I'll move to accept all the articles as presented and as amended to be included in the warrant
This evening.
this evening.
Second.
Questions on that? Minor question, but on the Article number 6, the high school track and field, I've heard this presented different ways. It's a high school track and stands, and it's the Board of Selectmen article. It's been presented that it's a school committee article. It's brought forward by the Board of Selectmen. How did it become a Board of Selectmen?
Because the
article?
capital plan is recommended by the Board of Selectmen. So the overall capital plan is recommended by the board, so that's by the process. So
the funding source tracks where this is coming
yes,
from?
that's correct. So
So there's no school money going towards this at all?
Correct. So what happens, Jim, is that the CIP process as it currently stands, the CIP committee meets, they make their recommendations, they may present it to the Board of Selectmen, Board of Selectmen takes its position on it, and then it gets presented in the warrant. So that's the bylaw process you currently have in place.
So if this was school building that's on there, it would still be a Board of Selectmen item?
Ultimately, it's a capital project, it would be the same, that's right. I mean, the school committee certainly would support it, but it would be, because it's a capital expenditure, it would be done that way, yes. That's your bylaw, that's your current bylaw.
Bill?
I think, Jim, for the clarification.
Sure.
The reason, Bill Yukna, 60 South Street. The reason that the article was split out, it was part of the CIP budget. But the request was made that it sit on its own basis. So it went to the CIP as part of the budget.
But
split out as a separate article.
But how did it get to the CIP?
It was put on by the school department.
So it was
we have a list of 6 or 7 things that are ours, just like DPW does and everything else.
Okay.
They were all submitted at the same time. In past years, it would have been all under the CIP budget, but the request was made that because of its size, it sit by itself and be a separate conversation. And that's the only reason it's not part of the actual Article 5.
That's really no different than any other department, for instance, police, fire, public works, all making their recommendations through their CIP. Ultimately, that recommendation of the CIP gets made to the Board of Selectmen, and then it then becomes your.
Okay, I'm just, the confusion is, and I know it's later in the, but the letter that you're going to read later says it's a school committee item. That's the conflict that you're going to present later. So if it's a school committee item on one document that's given to us, it's a Board of Selectmen on the other. That's my confusion, because not to say we're against it or for it, but nobody at this board asked for it. So now I'm understanding that the CIP, because it's over a certain amount, it becomes a school request, becomes a Board of Selectmen request.
ultimately, when it becomes once the capital process is, CIP has made its recommendation, then then it becomes the Board of Selectmen's action at that point.
Did the CIP make a recommendation on this?
Yes.
They did, okay.
They did.
So you have Article 5, which is the CIP budget. This was pulled out of Article 5 because of the size.
But it was recommended to the,
Right.
to the board.
Right.
Okay.
So you have Article 5 and Article 6.
Yeah. Okay.
Both CIP.
Thank you.
So, got a motion? Seconded? A discussion? All those in favor? Now.
Okay, now comes the hard part. So as in going through these articles one by one, Articles 1, 2, and 3 are standard articles that are in every warrant, every annual warrant. I don't know that you really require a position on it, but it's entirely up to you if the board wants to do that.
Can we do these can we do Articles 1, 2, and 3 as a block?
Good. Totally up to you.
So am I making a motion?
Yes.
Okay. Move to approve, not approve, though.
Support.
Support. Move to support Articles 1, 2, and 3.
Second.
Motion made, second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all's in favor?
Move to support Article 4, the operating budget.
Second.
Motion made, seconded. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Just scrolling down, give me a sec. Move to approve Article 5, the CIP budget. Move. Support.
Support.
Motion made, seconded. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor?
All right. Move to support Article 6, the high school track and field and stands.
Just a question, why are there two Article 5s? Is that?
Yeah, I just noticed that myself. I think that it should be one article. That's a typo.
We would be approving the budget and the schedule of the future
schedule.
ones?
The CIP budget and schedule is one and the same.
So when we,
That's a typo. We'll take care of that.
okay.
I made the motion. Are you going to second it?
I will second it.
Motion made, seconded. All those in support? All those opposed? Okay. Jeannie, what was?
Oh, I support it.
Okay, so that's 3-2.
Article 7, move to support Article 7, the fire contract.
Second.
Motion made, seconded. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Article 8, move to support Article 8, the police contract.
Second.
Oh, didn't
I'm gonna.
we just, didn't
We don't have.
Oh, they're going to be out of order, that's right.
No, they're not going to, we're not gonna, that's gonna be tabled at this point.
Oh, I've got two different things going, I'm sorry.
No, but it wasn't.
Fire contract was recommended, the DPW contract was
wasn't
recommended, but the police contract has been tabled.
Okay.
So we just approved the warrant with it on it.
I just realized that myself. I didn't realize it was on there, so. So you can,
Why don't we go through all of these and then
yeah,
make
just go
one
back, you
thing
can
at the end
amend
to
that
fix it,
afterwards. You can fix
in
that.
case something else comes up?
Move to approve, so should I forget the article numbers and just go right to what it's about? Move to support the DPW contract?
Yes.
Okay.
Second.
Motion made, seconded. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Move to approve, support, sorry, thank you. Move to support the budget adjustment.
Second.
Motion made, seconded. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Just for clarification purposes, you should just go through the list as is presented right now. realizing, of course, that the order is going to change because of the zoning articles.
Okay. Move to support the revolving funds annual spending limits.
Did you do the budget adjustments first?
Yeah.
You did, okay, right. I'm sorry.
Second.
Motion made, second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all's in favor?
Move to support the fund qualified OPEB trust.
Second.
Motion made, second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all's in favor?
Move to support the fund capital stabilization.
Second.
Motion made, second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all's in favor?
Aye. Move to support
Fund stabilization.
fund stabilization.
Second.
Motion made, second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all's in favor?
Move to support the special legislation, the land transfer for the fire department.
Second.
Motion made, second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all's in favor?
Move to support the citizens petition special legislation to upgrade an off-premises package store annual wine and malt license to an off-premises package store all alcohol license.
Second.
Motion made, second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all's in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
Doc, what was your position on that? Were you supportive or not supportive?
I apologize. Can I ask for a revote? Because I was focusing on reading it right. Okay. I need a revote.
I didn't see
Thank you for
I
bringing
didn't see
it
your
up.
hand raised
Yeah,
either
because
way.
I was
All right.
focusing. Please let me read it again. Move to support a citizens petition special legislation to upgrade an off-premises package store annual wine and malt license to an off-premises package store all alcohol license.
Second.
And under discussion, just because this has a little bit of a history that you might not have been around for. So since it wasn't presented to us this time, what we had talked about last time, it went through the Economic Development Committee, and it went back and forth. And we heard from one side, there is another side, so maybe they balance off a little bit. But the Economic Development Committee defeated this 8-0, and the Selectmen, I think it was either 3 or 4-1 against it. And it would, again, what we heard was just one side, but there is a strong argument for the other. But in my opinion on this, there's a process to go through where we have discussions and public input, and there's a certain amount of liquor licenses, and it affects all the other businesses around. That process is short-circuited to go to this. And I applaud any citizen that wants to come up and do a petition. But the flip side is, or the ramification is, the process is short-circuited. So from my recollection on the meetings that we had before, that's why I'm against it.
Yeah, it was pulled off the last warrant article when we had the other liquor licenses.
But I attended the AdCom meetings, and I did hear both sides, and I was not in favor. I'm not in favor of this. There was believe me, there was great discussion at AdCom, and, but I just don't feel it passes muster.
If it's at all helpful, I can give you the summary of our position. We did come here tonight. It was a posted public meeting. This was on the agenda. This is why we came here. You won't hear from me. I actually have a summary of what I have to say. I can hand it to you.
We're well aware of the situation. We know the presentation was made to AdCom. They're going to make their recommendation on the floor at town meeting.
But with all due respect, you're going to take a vote now. And you don't know the issues that my clients want you to understand before you take a vote in favor of or opposed to.
I understand the issues, okay? I understand them clearly, okay? We're going to let it, it's going to stay on the warrant article. We're going to state our position. AdCom's going to state their position. Town's going to vote on it. If it passes, they have to come before the board.
I understand the process. My only concern is that this board is now going to vote and take a position on this warrant article. While, with all due respect to you, you say you understand the position of my clients, I don't know that because I haven't given that to you. And I know that this is not the first time around for this, and you probably indeed do know the issues, but I don't know that holds true for the rest of the board. And my concern is that the board's going to take a position on this warrant article, and here I stand with a summary of the points that I would like to make on behalf of my client, and I'm apparently not going to be able to give that.
You have 5 minutes.
I can give it to you in less than 5 minutes. Okay. Would you like me to hand out the handout to you? I have that as well.
Sure.
Just counting as my 5 minutes.
Pick up the pace.
I've had federal judges.
Good night, Joe.
Okay, so as Mr. DeVellis pointed out, this was not the first time this issue has come before this board. I think it came as I don't remember how it started the last time, but the last time economic development was 080 against it. And I'll go a little out of order with what's in the paperwork here. We've been doing a lot of work in town to enhance the downtown area, come up with a plan. We have nodes. This board has been very intimately involved with all of that to make sure that we have proper representation with all these licensed businesses through the town. I've had clients that have either suffered or gotten benefit from those kinds of things. This seems to do an end around to that. It does an end around on the established practice, the rules and practices, not only of this board, but also of the ABCC with regard to how licenses are obtained. There's no benefit to the town whatsoever if this citizen petition goes forward and is allowed at town meeting. It fundamentally changes the rules. There's a statute in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, Mass General Laws 138, Section 17, says 1 full package store license per 5,000 people in town. So what this citizen petition intends to do is to circumvent that rule of law because he wants one. More fundamentally, as it relates to my clients, they went out and bought licenses. The most recent one was Foxborough Wine and Spirits. He paid $250,000 to have the license as a part of the purchase of the Foxborough Wine and Spirits. If this petition goes through and if the petitioner is successful, he'll be handed one. It is unfair competition, and it not only is unfair competition in that he won't have to have paid for it, but the other license holders in town will have diminution of value of their licenses as a result of that because they're valuable on the open market. And that is fundamentally unfair. Lastly, the petitioner had 2 opportunities to purchase a license in the open market. He didn't take that opportunity either time. He ought not to be handed one now simply because he wants one. Thank you. Less than 5 minutes.
Well done.
Including passing out the papers.
So, just to clarify, we can't take it off the warrant.
I'm not asking you to do that.
And you made that statement.
Yeah, I'm not asking you to do that.
So just
I
to
understand the
clarify,
process.
we cannot take it off the warrant.
Right, but I do think it's fundamentally important what this board has to say about how it does its business on a regular, everyday basis. This takes away from that.
Yep, okay, thank you. Jeannie?
And just, when I was at the advisory committee, hearing the discussion, I was compelled to make a couple of comments. One being that, like Mr. Stopa said, this kind of upsets the established licenses around the nodes that we had established. And when we developed the nodes, it was the Economic Development Committee actually sent a questionnaire to the license holders, the liquor license holders in the town of Foxborough. And one of the questions was, would you like to upgrade? And the petitioner said no. So that was, And I thought if he wanted to upgrade his license, that was the opportunity for him to upgrade the license. So that was what made the decision for me.
Did he say no, or did he just not respond? Do you know?
I don't know. I don't know whether he didn't respond. Well, if he didn't respond, that's a no.
He did respond, and he did send out a petition, and granted, the petition was, everybody, you send out a petition, everybody's going to sign a petition.
Yeah.
So when it was presented with the other liquor licenses, it was pulled off because it wasn't support for it.
Oh, okay.
So, but he has been seeking to go from a beer and wine to an all alcohol for a number of years. And granted, yes, he had the opportunity to purchase a license when one was available, and he didn't exercise that at that time.
But also when the Forbes Crossing development, when they were talking about liquor license, he also wanted to have a full, he also wanted to apply for a full liquor license, and he was told no because that would upset the balance, so he withdrew that. And he just asked for the pouring restaurant, for restaurants.
So,
motion's on the floor.
motion's on the floor.
Second.
Second.
Motion made, second. Any further discussion? All those in favor of support? All those opposed? Okay. 1, 2, 3.
All right. Move to support the Capital Improvement Planning Committee bylaw.
Second.
Motion made, second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all's in favor?
Okay.
Move to support the amendment, Chapter 30, to amend Chapter 30 meeting bylaw.
Second.
Motion made, second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all's in favor?
Pratt School is off. Is the sewer service map off too?
No.
No, so move to support the amend the sewer service map area.
Second.
Motion made,
Are we
second.
also adding Borough School at this point?
That's where it is.
That's what that is.
That's what that is.
Oh, 60 more, oh, okay, I'm sorry.
Any further discussion, Ginny?
No, I thought there was a home too that was requesting.
Well, that's the amendment to the map, so that includes people in the map, which would include the school, I think, one other user.
Well, that's not what this says, though. This is just one, unless that school shares an address with the house at 16
Yeah, I'm not aware of anybody else's, to be honest
That's
with
what I
you.
mean,
It
that's
was
why I
just a
thought,
school.
is 16 Moore Street the address of the Borough School?
I think that what the discussion was, if there was a house in the area that wanted it, they would do
Yes.
the same thing that the school did.
Right.
So the map is the map,
Right, and
plus the
no, I
school.
know, but I thought I thought there was a house that was.
It might be.
But
It might be.
apparently, the address.
It's encompassed within that map anyways.
Okay, but the 16 Moore Street is the Borough School.
Right.
Okay, no, I just.
Unless someone else is using 1,900 gallons a day.
I know, but I just saw that too, and I thought, oh my God, that's a big question.
Yeah.
All those in favor?
Aye. Move to support the acceptance of Western Avenue as a public way.
Second.
Motion made, second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all's in favor?
Aye.
We've taken out the hawkers and peddlers. Sorry, that's a long amendment. Move to support the unmanned aircraft drone article.
Second.
Motion made, second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all's in favor?
Move to support the Route 1 zoning.
Second.
Motion made, second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all's in favor?
Another long article, bear with me.
Live on that cheat sheet there, Brian.
I'm too afraid. Move to support the amendment zoning bylaw WRPOD.
Second.
Motion made, second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all's in favor?
Aye. Move to support the amendment zoning bylaw residential large-scale ground solar.
You forgot. I think there's the accessory structure.
It's not in the, let me see.
Amend zoning bylaw accessory.
Oh, I did skip it, went right by it, sorry. Move to support the amended zoning bylaw accessory structure.
Second.
Motion made, second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all's in favor?
Aye. Move to support the amendment zoning bylaw residential large-scale ground solar.
Second.
Motion made, second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all's in favor?
Aye.
Was the last one.
You probably have to make an amendment to the original one to remove that additional
Yeah, that was
contract.
So I'll move to remove that Article 8.
Article 8
police-
was on the police contract.
Police contract.
That will renumber the articles, and effectively renumber the articles accordingly.
So, under discussion, so we're gonna remove Article 8, and then do we have to re-vote to approve the remainder as
Yes.
amended?
Yes.
All those in favor to remove Article 8?
Aye.
Move to accept all articles as presented and as amended be included in the warrant this evening.
As for this, as amended on April 17th
As amended, April 17, 2018.
by the Board of Selectmen.
10.
By the Board of Selectmen at 10:12.
There you go.
Second.
Any
Which is the
further
last one.
discussion? No? All those in favor?
Aye.
Great. Thank you.
That was tough.
Well, thank you, that was good. That was, you made, thank you for that, thank you. All right.
Well, I blew the schedule tonight, I apologize. Anybody have anything for Selectmen's update? Anybody want to chime in?
Congratulations to all the residents that ran the marathon in the miserable cold rain.
Yeah.
It's a tough one.
Yeah, that was a tough day to run.
Bill?
Yeah. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have a document I want to read into the record. Actually, I'd almost prefer that you read it as opposed to me read it, Mr. Chairman, if you don't mind. Because it'd be appropriate, since I sent it to the board. So it shouldn't be appropriate that you read it as opposed to me.
Okay. Two Board of Selectmen Advisory Committee members and Town Moderator, from William Keegan, Town Manager, Randy Scollins, Director of Finance, regarding public comments made by Stephanie McGowan at the board's meeting on April 3rd, 2018, date of the letter April 6, 2018. We respectfully request that these comments be read into the record of the Board of Selectmen at your next board meeting. The board will recall at your meeting on April 3rd that Ms. Stephanie McGowan approached the podium at the citizens input segment of your meeting to address the board. Both Mr. Scollins and I were present at the meeting when this occurred. Since it is the board's policy to not respond to items during citizens input, we have prepared this statement for inclusion in the record for your next meeting. At that time, Ms. McGowan attempted to recount for the board an incident that occurred on March 28, 2018, at the advisory committee meeting involving the town manager and the finance director. Specifically, Ms. McGowan indicated that both the town manager and the director of finance, quote, yelled at her during a time when she was attempting to speak on Article 6 of the annual town meeting warrant. Article 6 is the capital request proposed by the school department to fund a new track and new grandstands for the turf complex at the high school. Ms. McGowan further described the incident as an attempt to silence her as a taxpayer on this topic. Unfortunately, Ms. McGowan's accounting of the events that actually occurred that evening are not consistent with eyewitness accounts and the recorded version of what happened, and we want to take this opportunity to correct the impression that was made to the board and to the public on April 3rd, citizens input agenda item. The context of the situation was as follows. On the evening of March 28, 2018, the advisory committee was attempting to hear the details of some of the capital requests that had been recommended for funding by the Capital Improvement Committee to the Board of Selectmen and the Advisory Committee. The item that came up around 7:30 PM was a presentation made by the school business manager and the superintendent of schools concerning the proposed improvements to the turf field as contained in Article 6 of the warrant. Mr. Scollins was sitting at the presentation table with Mr. Yukna and Ms. Beardros at the time the presentation was being made. I arrived late to the meeting due to another meeting I had that evening in my office on an unrelated issue. Upon arriving at the meeting, I sat in the back row of the gala meeting room and was listening to the presentation. I happened to notice that Ms. McGowan, who is a member of the advisory committee, was not sitting at the head of the table with the remaining members of the advisory committee. While serving in the capacity of an advisory committee member, it was recommended...
No, you missed the page. No, missed the page. It's on the other side. Yep, there you go. Sorry.
I thought it sounded a little funny.
Yeah, it was like...
Following the presentation by Mr. Yukna and Ms. Beardros, the chairman of the advisory committee, Bernard Dumont, asked the members of his committee if they had any questions about the capital request. Several members of the committee posed questions, and the presenters responded with their answers. Members of the audience made comments, generally in support of the request. Following an exchange that occurred for several minutes between members of the advisory committee, members of the audience, and the presenters, Ms. McGowan raised her hand to be recognized by Chairman Dumont. Ms. McGowan, once recognized, indicated that she was there as a private citizen, not as an advisory committee member. She then began addressing her specific thoughts on Article 6 to the advisory committee. At that point, several members of the committee then looked to the chair with concern and were wondering why Stephanie was speaking to this article. For clarity purposes, Ms. McGowan is the spouse of a school department employee and has been advised on previous occasions that in order for her to avoid any perceived or real conflict of interest while serving as a member of the advisory committee, she should recuse herself from participating in discussion or vote on any school-related expenses or requests for funding. From our initial impression of her sitting in the audience that evening, it appeared that she was adhering to that advice. However, when Ms. McGowan raised her hand and started to address the article, even after proclaiming that she was there as a private citizen, it raised a level of concern at the meeting. Chairman Dumont then attempted to address this concern and looked to the Director of Finance and myself to help offer some guidance. Almost simultaneously, Mr. Scollins and I expressed concern that Ms. McGowan should be careful about addressing this issue. Neither one of us at any time raised our voice or used a yelling tone. A recording of the meeting by the minute taker used for developing the minutes of the meeting will confirm this. In addition, several members of the audience who sat next to Mr. Scollins and myself can confirm this. When asked by Chairman Dumont, it was our collective opinion that the comments that were being offered by Ms. McGowan would possibly be in conflict, particularly before the board for which she is a voting member. During the time that this advice was being offered, Ms. McGowan retorted that she had checked with Frank and that it was perfectly fine for her to address the committee as a private citizen. Frank, as in referenced, is inferred to mean Frank Spillane, the town moderator. In response to that comment, we both indicated that decisions referring to conflict of interest issues can only be made by the State Ethics Commission and not by a local official. No disrespect intended to the town moderator. Candidly speaking, we believe it is our responsibility as professionals to offer prospective advice to volunteer boards on how to conduct themselves as members of a public committee, though we admittedly concede that neither one of us is the final authority. Mr. Scollins then offered some further thoughts in a very instructive tone. He cited an example that was offered to him when he served in a similar capacity as an advisory committee member early in his career. The simple advice was that whenever there was a possibility of a conflict while serving in the capacity of an advisory committee member, it was recommended to him that whether the conflict was real or perceived, the member should step down from the committee, not participate in either the discussion or the vote, and should even step out of the room during the discussion. Following these final comments by Mr. Scollins, Ms. McGowan sat down and did not offer any further thoughts on this article. To be clear, the advice, and we emphasize the word advice, offered by both the town manager and director of finance was not offered in a way to silence Ms. McGowan. Rather, it was offered to her as a precaution so that she might not unintentionally place herself in violation of state law. To suggest that the advice that was offered by either one of us in a malicious tone or an attempt to silence Ms. McGowan's opinion of this article is simply false. For the record, Ms. McGowan has and continues to have a couple of avenues available for her for expressing an opinion on Article 6. She could do so by attending a public meeting of the Board of Selectmen. She could also express her opinion at the annual town meeting, where she can convey her position as a town meeting member. The reason we believe it would be acceptable for her to offer an opinion at either of those forums is that the Board of Selectmen is a separately elected body that does not appoint advisory committee members. The town meeting is an acceptable forum because at that point that the meeting is held, the advisory committee will have already taken and recorded its position on the article. What has been brought into question is whether or not it is appropriate for Ms. McGowan to openly express her opinion on an article on something which she may or may not be in conflict to the committee for which she is a voting member. This is particularly concerning in light of the fact that the advisory committee offers final recommendations on articles for town meeting members in the printed town meeting warrant. The optics are the driving concern here, and that is why our conservative collective advice to Ms. McGowan was to not address her opinions regarding Article 6 at the advisory committee forum and avoid any perception that her actions were conflicted. While Ms. McGowan has since indicated she had obtained an opinion from the State Ethics Commission, allegedly indicating that her actions were allowable on March 28th, it remains unclear to either of us what question was posed to the Ethics Commission and what answer was offered. Absent a full understanding either of those issues, it remains the intent of both the town manager and director of finance to continue to offer conservative advice to sitting board or committee members. The primary goal of this approach is designed to protect both the integrity of the public process and the legal interests of a volunteer committee member. Consistent with that approach, we believe that the advice offered to Ms. McGowan on the evening of March 28th was reasonable, professional, and completely well-intended. We regret if our actions were interpreted in any other manner. Request respectfully submitted, William G. Keegan, Town Manager, William R. Scollins, Jr., Director of Finance.
I just want to add, Mr. Chairman, that again, in no disrespect to Ms. McGowan's issue, I've since been told that she has tried to reach out. I was away last week. She's been away on vacation the past week or two. So, but I think she has reached out to me to sit down and go over the issue. I'm happy to do that with her and try and rectify the whole concern. So I'm done with it. I have no ill will about this. Neither does Mr. Scollins. We just want to just clarify the record so that the intention that was left for the public was corrected. That's all.
Okay. And I did speak to Stephanie. She's away for 3 weeks, but her intention is when she gets back to reach out to you and just go over the events and kind of clear the air.
Happy to do it.
Okay.
Thank you. So in terms of other issues, I was away last week on vacation, so we're having a department head meeting tomorrow morning. I will take up the issue of the flow that you've asked for. So, and then we're just trying to get everything finalized, getting the warrant finalized, getting everything prepared for town meeting. We try to make a last-ditch effort at the end to try and get our contract with the police officers, but the schedules just didn't work and we couldn't pull it together. So there was fair effort made by both sides to try and do it, but we just couldn't get it done. So we'll address that in the fall with the other article, with any other contracts.
Okay.
So those are my positions at this point. That's all I have. Mary Beth is sick, unfortunately. She's recovering. Hopefully she'll be back tomorrow. We're hoping, but she's the difficulties of having grandchildren with that get ill during the process. So. So she does not have a report tonight.
We've done our action items.
Yep.
I think we need to adjourn a regular session and go into executive session.
Mr. Chairman, so the only item that you have to deal with is the minutes at this point. There is no other actions pending at this point.
So if it's the board's pleasure, we can not go into executive session.
You can defer it to your next meeting if you'd like. I mean, I don't think you have anything.
Yeah, why don't we do that? It's late.
Move to adjourn.
And not go into executive session.
Well, do we have to do this?
No, you can just
adjourn.
forego the issue and say that you'll take it up at the next meeting for the board.
Troublemaker.
Let's try.
He's trying to give you extra words.
Did you second?
I second.
Okay, second, no further discussion. All those in favor? Aye.
Thank you all very much.